Hey, this is Big John Summers, and I want to thank you so much for listening to the Tennessee History Nerd. By the way, if you enjoyed this episode, I want you to know that there's a lot more content waiting for you out there. We're adding new episodes every week, and we're working our way across the whole state of Tennessee, covering stories from prehistory all the way into the 20th century. So if you like Tennessee history, there's already a catalog of stories out there for you to explore. So, scroll back through those previous episodes. You might just find something you weren't expecting. And again, thanks so much for listening. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. This is Big John Summers, Tennessee History Nerd. I have with me today Justin Reed. Justin is a music industry radio personality. He has been doing this stuff for quite a long time. We'll talk about some of his background and his history as we go along. He is currently on the Justin Reed Show on 105.3 Wow Country, also on other stations that are affiliated with Wow Country in other parts of the state. So if you hear him, you go, I don't listen to him on McMinnville, I listen to him in Crossville.
Right.
Then that's why, because he also does shows that go across. I guess you could say you're syndicated.
I guess so. I work at Main Street Media as our parent company, and they own 4 stations in McMinnville, 2 in Sparta, 4 in Crossville. So we bounce back and forth talent. So basically from Knoxville to Lynchburg, you can hear this angelic voice matched with the ugly face.
Face made for radio.
There you go.
And we've already had that joke once today.
So. I hear that. I'm on the air live 5 days a week, so I probably hear it about 5 days a week. At
least. Well, I just had the opportunity and the very good fortune to be on his radio show earlier as his guest. Man, we had a ball.
We had a ball, a big ball in Cowtown. We talked about one of your most recent episodes with the plane crash that killed Hawkshaw Hawkins, Cowboy Copas, Patsy Cline, and Randy Hughes. And we had a whole lot of fun, played some other songs in the process. And it won't be, I don't think it'll be your last visit.
Well, so. I'm thrilled to hear that. And by the way, I can come for more hours than just the one if you want me.
Of course you can. I've heard that before. By the way, looking at my records, you're guest number 66 since we started the show back on Wow Country. So,
well, at least it's not 666.
There you go. Well, we haven't made it that far yet. That and $5 buy you a cup of coffee anywhere you go.
Exactly. Well, depends on where you're getting the coffee.
It's a small cup of coffee.
Yeah. So we go way back. We've done this. We've had these kinds of conversations for quite a while, and
many years.
I used to listen to you. I guess was when you were in school, and you were on the radio in Murfreesboro.
So we started. It's a collective we. It's the royal we, because I'm an only child and I'm the favorite. So it's we. You know how that is.
Right.
So I'm involved in everybody's plans.
I'm the favorite son.
There you go. Started the Justin Reed Show at WMTS in Murfreesboro on February the 2nd of 2012. Ran for 6.5 years. And then I started a Wow Country a week later. In fact, the day that we're doing this is my 8-year anniversary of being on Wow Country. I have done the Justin Reed Show in some form or fashion since 2010. Did it as a podcast in high school, throughout MTSU time. When I would do interviews on Wow Country, they weren't branded necessarily as the Justin Reed Show, but they all fit. And so collectively, I've been doing this show since 2010. Now we're in almost a year and a half back on the airwaves of Wow Country. So weekdays 9 to noon. No longer doing morning radio. I did mornings for about 11 years of my so far 15-year career, and now I like getting here about 8:30 instead of 5:30.
Right.
There's a big difference in those 3 hours. You might not realize it.
There very much is. And the thing for me, just as I'm doing this podcast, what I'm finding is I work when the work needs to be done. It's not necessarily tied to any particular. It's definitely not 9 to 5. It is not 9 to 5.
And boy, let me tell you, I wish Dolly would have sang 10 to 3.
Yes.
Can I just throw that one out there? But she didn't. So here we are.
Well, for me, yesterday my day started at 3:30 a.m.
Yep.
And then I finally got home late last night. It was going on 9 o'clock when I got home. So yeah, I mean, that's just the way that it goes. And when you're getting started, you put the extra hours in as needed.
I remember those days. Not the podcast necessarily, but there was a while. There's two stations at MTSU. WMTS, which is the student-run station, which those call letters back in the day were owned by Mary Reeves, Jim Reeves' widow.
No kidding.
And then the other station, which MTS has been on since '92. Sorry, in radio you frequently drop the W. All radio stations this side of the Mississippi start with W. All the ones that side start with a K. So I tend to drop the W because life's easier. So then I was at WMOT or MOT. When they switched from jazz to Americana in August of 16, I started in September of 16 as the fill-in. So I worked every shift. I was frequently Keith Bilbrey's fill-in. He was 9 to noon. So there'd be days where I do the Justin Reed Show 6 to 10 on WMTS, and I would also pull 9 to noon on WMOT, so an hour running back and forth. And then for a while, I also worked at WSM AM in Nashville, the home of the Grand Ole Opry.
Wow.
So there'd be days it'd be 6 to 10, 9 to noon, and then 6P to 1A.
So let's talk about what you just mentioned there, because what you just dropped, you dropped one big-time name with Keith Bilbrey, of course, and he was on WSM for a lot of years.
For 35 years.
And then, of course, you, as we were talking just a few minutes ago, you dropped another name, big name, one that we just lost.
Yeah.
Bill Cody.
Bill Cody.
And so, what stories do you have about those two gentlemen?
So I'll start with Bilbrey. So I'd always wanted to interview Bilbrey, Keith Bilbrey. I mean, he was the Grand Ole Opry. He was the midday guy at WSM growing up when I was listening. He was the first announcer on the Midnight Jamboree. Well, he was the last one while Ernest Tubb was alive, and then continued it after Tubb passed away. Mm-hmm. He did a lot, if you remember, the live TNN Opry show. Mm-hmm. Keith Bilbrey was backstage while they were doing the live radio show. Then they would cut to the screen. And so I'd always want to interview him, and I'd met him at different radio events, because being in radio, if you put some time into it, it's like it's one big fan club. It's one big family, because we all have kind of dealt with the same stuff.
Right.
You've dealt with bosses, and you've dealt with music, whatever it is, and so it's that shared bond. So we would connect, and I'd say, Mr. Bilbrey, I'd love for you to come on, and he'd be like, I'm not getting up that early, because he didn't have to. And then MOT changes formats. They hire Keith Bilbrey to be 9 to noon, so now he's next door to me. I did the show on Thursdays, and it got to where he would get on campus, because we were in the Mass Comm building. Media and Entertainment building. They changed it while I was there.
I wouldn't have even known the difference, because it was the Mass Comm building. I remember when that building was built.
Yes. So he would come about 8:30 and hang out on my show for about 30 minutes. Sometimes never crack the mic on. Every now and then I'd go, Keith Bilbrey's in the studio, and I'd turn it on, and he would share some memories. And then usually when my show was over at 10, then I'd go hang out another hour with him. Never intruding, but he would always have me come on, and we would play one of my favorite games, and I'd walk in and I'd go, Keith, did you ever know Pee Wee King? And he would tell the story and pull up a picture. Then next week I'd go, Keith, did you ever? And it was just some of the forgotten people that were big back in their day. And Keith had been around long enough that he, had all these connections. And every now and then it'd be more obscure, and he'd be like, I met them once, and I could see the joy in his eyes of recalling meeting somebody once at Fanfare or whatever. Right. So we had a whole lot of fun with that. But then I was also his fill-in. He was the announcer at Larry's Country Diner. So they would tape for weeks at a time. So I'd do like 2 weeks, pulling 9 to noon. So it got to where the listeners knew who I was, although I had no show. But I would do morning drive, I'd do his show, I'd do afternoon drive, whatever. But it was a whole lot of fun. Only one time did I not fill in for him, because I went to the show that he was doing. Because I had an open invitation to Larry's Country Diner, but I couldn't always make my schedule work.
Sure.
But there's somebody there that I wanted to see. Wound up taking, now my mother-in-law, but she came with me, and it was the Rhonda Vincent, Daryl Singletary when they were promoting their album. And so I know Rhonda, and so it was good to see them and meet Daryl that one time before, he passed away too soon.
And for those of you who are not familiar with Larry's Country Diner, that's a CMT show that...
RFD TV.
I said CMT. Yep. It's RFD TV, and that is Larry Black.
Larry Black, who preceded Bill Cody on mornings on SMAM at WSM.
And their voices are very similar.
Very similar. Bill would cut up more.
Yeah.
Larry was more business-minded.
Right. But I
Well, you have to be. He owns a diner. No, I'm
right.
kidding.
Well, I remember listening,
Yep.
and I thought he had left, and turned out it was Bill Cody.
Yeah. It's just kind of funny how
Right.
how all that works.
Right. But yeah, I mean they very, very similar voices, and so yeah, so Keith Bilbrey.
It's a radio legend. He's
Yeah,
Tennessee
well,
Radio Hall of Famer, as it should be.
right. Well, I was just thinking. I mean, he was one of those links like to Grant Turner.
Yeah. Yeah, he was still working when Grant was there, and I mean, he knew all. I mean, my favorite. I'm wearing. You can't see it; it's audio. I'm wearing an Ernest Tubb T-shirt. 'Cause Ernest Tubb's my favorite.
Right.
And so I would just ask Keith Ernest stories, and he would just,
Right.
I mean, Keith was a kid. I'm not a kid, but I mean, he was really younger. I mean, Tubb passed away in '84, so September the 6th of '84. So it's been a while.
I remember actually, as we're sitting here talking, I told you I wanted to ask you to play a song. I wish I'd thought about this because you would have been all over it.
Yeah.
So on that same album that we were talking about, this, by the way, we mentioned briefly in the radio show, one of my favorite albums of all time. It's an album of covers.
Yes.
It is by the group Asleep at the Wheel, covering old Western Standard songs, and it's called Western Standard Time,
Came
which
out
is
in '88.
awesome.
It's
Yes,
fantastic. Willie Nelson is interlaced throughout the songs. And
right. But they had they did a cover of "Walking the Floor Over You."
Can we take a tangent on Walking the Floor Over You?
Sure.
I may argue that this may be the most important country music single to ever have been recorded. And I don't say that because Ernest Tubb is my favorite. But it was the first hit song that featured an electric guitar solo in the prominent role that we know it today. There were electric guitars recorded, but the original one was Ernest on acoustic, and Smitty was on the electric guitar in 41. And you can look at country music singles recorded up to 41, and they all kind of sound the same. And then there was a branch after Walking the Floor Over You. Now, when Ernest first recorded it was Walking. He would re-record it many a times. Later it became Walkin'. He would drop the G, and then most people remember it would start with the chorus and then the verse. That was the later renditions, became his walk-on song at the Opry and other places. That song is so popular. You and I were referencing Hank Williams off the air during the Justin Reed show. Do you realize Hank Williams quotes and alludes to Walking the Floor Over You? They'll walk the floor the way I do, your cheating heart.
Right.
Well, telling you how many songs mention walking the floor, which was not a prominent phrase. It was used, but it wasn't a prominent phrase until Ernest. But if you look at charts, it didn't chart because there wasn't a country music chart then.
Right.
There was folk hillbilly, but even then in 41, it still wasn't what we would think of today. So I can see, you kind of have the Carter family, you have the Bristol Sessions, the Carter family,
Sure.
and Jimmy Rogers.
Jimmy Rogers.
And then you have Ernest Tubb, who idolized Jimmy Rogers and recorded stuff in 36 and 33 and 36. Trying to sound like Jimmy Rogers didn't work.
That guy did too.
That guy did too, and he's looking over the shoulder because that is Gene Autry. Did you notice I have it hung just like Gene and Roy?
Yes, I
song?
did notice that.
Pictures of Gene Autry and Roy Rogers in the studio.
Yeah.
But ever since, and then country music took a shift after Walking the Floor Over You. And then it would shift again with rock and roll. But you had a good 12, 15 years where then everybody was they weren't trying to be Ernest Tubb,
Right.
but they were trying to make it sound kind of like that. And because you're here for trivia, I guess, I don't know. It's all going to get cut out anyway. So Ernest Tubb and Red Foley were best of friends.
Okay.
Red Foley, the father-in-law of Pat Boone, Red Foley. Let's just throw that little nugget in there.
Yeah.
Because we can. They played a lot together. They duetted together. And they are the two people responsible for it no longer being called hillbilly music and being called country music. Because they said, we don't play for just the hillbillies, but we play for all the people who live out in the country. Because hillbilly had that connotation.
Right.
Different connotation it has now, but they had that connotation. So we play songs for the people who live in the country. And so that started the change from hillbilly to country music.
Well, two things I want to bring up here. Number one, you mentioned when we started that you like both kinds of music.
Yes, country and western.
Right. The other thing is my grandmother, my mom's mom, wasn't from down here. She was a Yankee.
Got it.
And so she was from...
God loves all people.
Exactly. And I say that way because, it's just funny to do it that way, not
Right.
because I have any kind of an issue. She grew up in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And
not the South Pittsburgh, the
not
other
South
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, she grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and actually that's how she met my grandfather. My grandfather during the Depression had gone to work in the steel mills.
Right.
And that's how he met her. As he was working in the steel mill, and she was working in there as well. So, and then she ended up due to health issues, my uncle had problems with asthma. They moved back
right
to Tennessee to
the
try
land of pollen and trees.
Yes, but it was not the land of soot and
right.
And I mean, because we're talking about in the 50s here.
You trade one irritant for another.
Right, much worse irritant there. So with the all the coal dust in the air, but she called it. She said it was that was all they knew it as up there was hillbilly music.
Right.
She said we didn't call it country music then. Well, nobody called it country.
Nobody
music.
did.
So
it was hill. You had a couple of genres. You had hillbilly music. You had race music, which was music for the African Americans.
Right.
And I'm glad they changed that name. But
thank you.
You and I referenced Bob Wills off the air, and he recorded for the OK label, OKEH.
Yeah.
And they were known for hillbilly and race music. That was what that label's bread and butter was.
Well, I mean,
subsidy of Columbia.
And you had more or less a mixture of the two with his music because he fused.
He did.
He fused jazz and hillbilly music.
Right. But I mean, OK was the first label for Roy Acuff. I've got a Gene Autry on OK. It was just kind of that era.
I'm trying to remember who the label is that Mom and Dad have a 78 of Roy Acuff and the Crazy Tennesseans.
Yep. You know how that name changed. Okay. Remind me, we'll get back to Bill Cody because it's going to come full circle. Okay. I take a lot of tangents, but my name's in the Justin Reed Show, so I can do that. Not in your show. Anyways, so Roy Acuff.
I was sitting here thinking, this isn't this is your studio, though. So
but I'm used to taking tangents in this studio. Next episode won't be in here. Roy Acuff played on the Opry in '36. It was his debut with A Great Speckled Bird. And he got like 5 bags of mail as a guest performer. So they made him in '38 an Opry member. Okay. They quickly realized calling everybody in the WSM listening audience Crazy Tennesseans probably not the best. It was more of a marketing thing. Hey, we're from the Smoky Mountain area.
Right.
Not from the Smokies, like we would think Dolly's from the Smokies.
Right.
But, from the area. And he was in Knoxville, and so it became Roy Acuff and the Smoky Mountain Boys. But that early lineup, the first recording of Great Speckled Bird does not have Bachelor Brother Oswald on it, because he didn't join until after the name change. Of course, when people think of Roy Acuff, they think of Oz playing the dobro,
right,
laughing, crying, singing, whatever. That's Roy Acuff in their minds. But yeah. So Mr. Grand Ole Opry, first living inductee in the Country Music Hall of Fame in '62 was Roy Acuff. E.T. was class of '65. He was the sole '65 inductee.
And I didn't know the years, but I mean, I remember, him as growing up. He was on the Opry.
Yep.
And was the big. Well, he was one of the MCs.
Yeah.
So. And I did remember, I want to take you down a rabbit hole here.
Okay.
We'll circle back around to these other things. I finally remember what I was meaning to talk about earlier.
This is a 3-hour lag.
Yeah, this is a 3-hour lag. Well, every time we were on a break, you were reading something, and I couldn't jump in. This with live radio, I can't do that.
Right.
But it's my show. I get to do what I want.
You do what you want to.
So anyway, we were talking about Joe Taylor earlier.
Yes.
I was sitting in Joe's office, and he shared with me the original version of Through the Rocking Years.
Oh.
He had the master.
Yes.
Of not Dolly and Ricky Van, but Dolly and George Jones. That was the original version.
I've heard that they were going to do that, and that it didn't test well or something.
Well, somebody changed labels.
That would do it.
And as a result, it was like, persona non grata. He can't do this with us because he's not on our label anymore.
Right.
She's not on our label anymore. I don't remember which person it was that changed labels, but as a result of it, I think it was he changed labels, and she was still there. And at that time, Ricky Van was up and coming.
Yep.
And so they put Ricky Van on that recording with her.
Yeah.
Which was kind of, in a way, a little weird because the difference in ages.
Very much so. But, I mean, that happened a lot. So Ernest Tubb was most famously a duet partner of Loretta Lynn. Right? The Sweet Thing, the Nat Stuckey song, was their big duet. Put out 3 duet albums plus the story album, the 2 LP greatest hits, which was almost every song from the 3 repackaged because they only cut 3 albums. Another good hit was Who's Gonna Take Your Garbage Out? Love that one. But there was such an age difference because Ernest was born in 14 and Loretta was born in 32. Mm-hmm. That got kind of awkward. Now, if you're just singing about stuff, one thing. But a lot of times in these duets, you take the husband, they take the wife role. They're not married, certainly not.
Right.
But you want people similar. So they were on Decca. She was the Decca doll. Of course, he was Tex Troubadour. So they thought, who is on the roster that is similar in age to Loretta Lynn?
Conway.
Harold Lloyd Jenkins was born in 1933. And that became, and most people forget, but what I love about Loretta is she never forgot that between Ernest and the Wilburn brothers, they got her start, and so she would keep paying tribute to them. Now, we've lost her. We're losing connections to Ernest Tubb. Yeah. Well, there were, Doyle and Teddy were the famous ones, but they owned Wilhelm Music with Don Helms, Wilburn brothers and Don Helms. Okay. There were 4 brothers involved in the music, but they were more than that because there's a picture of all the Wilburn family playing.
Wow. Yeah. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember when they had a variety show.
The Wilburn Brothers show, which their girl singer was Loretta Lynn. Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't remember that. I just remember it would come on. I would be at my grandmother's house, and it would have to come on. I was like, I don't want to watch this. And now it's gold. I love the stuff, but yeah. But in one of their big songs was Arkansas. Yeah. And driving across. Yep. And it references Crowley's Ridge.
And because that's a cover. If it's the same Arkansas I'm thinking of, that's a cover of an Osborne Brothers song.
Probably is.
Because Osborne Brothers were known for state songs. They had Rocky Top. Yeah. They had Kentucky. They had 2 state songs, Kentucky and Rocky Top. But they also had Arkansas, The River's Still Flowing, Wide as Open. That's such a beautiful song. But Teddy and Doyle were stuff. Trouble's Back in Town. Roll Muddy River.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And everybody's favorite murder ballad, Knoxville Girl.
And see, for that one, it's the Louvin brothers that I always think of for that song.
Okay, so I went to school with Alex Louvin.
No
Charlie
kidding.
Louvin III.
No kidding.
I went to school 1 year at Coffee County, graduated from there, and in one of my classes, I went up to him one of the first days, and I'm like, okay, I'm a country music fan, Louvin. I'm trying to, what's the connection? Because you don't hear Louvin. It's a fake name. They were Loudermilks. They changed it, so it'd be Louvin. It'd be easier to spell and pronounce. And so he said, yeah, that's my grandfather. And then Charlie would actually pass my senior year. So his son, grandson Alex, we're still good friends. He listens to the show. I knew his dad, Sonny, who was Charlie's guitar player forever. And Charlie told me that his dad's favorite song to play was Knoxville Girl.
No kidding.
He said, because Dad knew all 48 verses. And the rest of us in the band would just get tired of...
48
well,
verses?
However many... Well, he would exaggerate, but however many verses could be sung to Knoxville Girl.
I mean, there was a lot. But...
And Charlie, if he could, the rest of the band's just back there singing and playing, and they're like, all right, come on. But yeah. So there's my Louvin brothers connection. Okay, I'll tell you one more, and then we get back to Bill Cody. It's what I do in life. I hope it's okay.
Well, no, this is exactly what I wanted.
I wasn't sure. So... arguably the most famous Louvin Brothers song, Satan is Real.
Satan is Real.
And you remember that famed album cover.
Oh, it's cringy.
So I have a picture I share at Christmas, and it's Santa is Real. Somebody edited it. But the song Satan is Real, yeah, I'd send it to you if I could find it. It's what it is, Doesn't take much to amuse me these days. With Satan is Real, I asked Sonny. I said, okay, I've always wanted to know, where did this album cover come from? And he said it in jest, but he said, I hate that album cover. I said, why? That's your dad's most famous either duet or solo project album. He said, because I had a model train set in the basement near the washing machine. And I came home one day and all my train set was in the floor, and they'd used the plywood it was built on to cut out this devil to spray paint red to put on this album
Oh,
cover.
my goodness.
And he said this to me as he's wearing the Satan is Real t-shirt.
Right.
You know, so he doesn't hate it too much. But I'm like, I know what happened to your train set tracks.
Right.
You know? It's the little things that...
The devil made me do it.
the devil made me do it the first time. Hello, Billy Joe Shaver. Second time I did it on my own, though. It's,
Well,
follow that song. Not theologically right, but here we are.
well, there's a really actually a because that was a gospel album.
Yeah.
One of
About half of their stuff was gospel.
right, but the Great Atomic Power
Oh, yeah.
is a fabulous song off that album.
Boy, you want to talk about a dated song.
Right, right.
I mean, it came out not too long after, Second World War and the dropping
Right.
of all that. But, yeah, Great Atomic Power.
Great Atomic.
We're in Studio 1A, the Champion Chevrolet GMC studio. I have to say that when I say the name. Love the sponsors. But behind you, there's a couple of racks of box sets, and over there I have a box set of everything the Louvin brothers put out.
Oh, that's great. Well, there was, it's hard to find some of their songs that don't make the short collections.
Right.
That are among my favorites, like I Love You Best of All.
Oh, that's a good one.
And it's hard to find sometimes.
Yes.
It's hard to find sometimes because Knoxville Girl is always something you
Knoxville
find.
Girls up there, and Cash on the Barrelhead.
Right. You're Running Wild.
Oh, that's a good one.
So-
When I Stopped Dreaming.
That's among my favorites.
Maybe the best brother harmony I can find on an album.
Yeah.
Or on a single.
And that one, in so many brother duets.
Right.
Where they had fabulous harmonies. And I mean, we talked about the Statler brothers earlier.
Yeah.
And, of course, they weren't, except for Harold and Don.
Harold and Don were brothers.
Were brothers.
And they spelled Reed wrong. So they put an I in it. And I told their sons that, and they just said, well, whatever.
Right. By the way, my wife's maiden name was Reed also.
I know, she's a good one. They hid Moses among our people. It's a biblical name. So, you hadn't heard me say that before?
No.
Every time somebody says, how do you spell Reed? I say 2 E's. That's the biblical way. And, we're not shaking in the wind either. I got 2 or 3 of them.
Right.
So, if you didn't get that, read your Old Testament.
READ.
Yeah. See?
If you're a business with a strong connection to history, education, travel, or place-based storytelling, and you're looking to reach an audience that values those things, we should talk. You can reach me at john.summers@summersmediaenterprises.com. Now, let's get back to our story. So anyways, another rabbit hole.
Okay.
You were talking about the first use of an electric guitar.
Yep, and on a hit commercial. It's not the first use of it, but on
Right.
a commercially...
A solo, with
Yeah.
a solo. If I'm not mistaken, the first example of distorted electric guitar
Okay.
is Don't Worry About Me,
Don't worry.
Marty
Wait, can
Robbins.
I sing on your podcast?
You can. I can
The
cut it out.
FCC, yeah, I was going to say, the FCC won't let me sing on the radio. That's a lie, but I tell people they believe me. No, you know that wasn't supposed to be distorted, though. Have you heard the story on that?
No, yeah, it's a messed up condenser in it.
And then they re-engineered how to make the
Right.
fuzz. That's what they call
Right.
it, the fuzz.
Right.
Yeah, so bring back to Bilbrey. Bilbrey wasn't at the recording session, but he knew the engineer that was.
Ah.
And so to hear him, so every time he could, because he was on the Americana station, but he would throw in some more country stuff because he's Keith Bilbrey.
Right.
And I got in trouble when I would play too much Buck Owens and Roger Miller, but he didn't because he's
Keith Bilbrey.
There's a big difference in how that works. And so he was just, just to hear him say, they were trying to figure out, okay, do we, because Don't Worry About Me, great Marty Robbins hit about 61, 62,
Right.
63. And in the solo, there's a faulty connection. Now, some stories say the amp caught on fire.
Yeah.
I don't think it caught on fire, but there was a malfunction in
Yeah.
it that the story's probably evolved to that. But they're in the studio, and, they kind of had an idea as they were recording it, but the people behind the glass knew. And they're like, well, let's just go ahead and record it and see if we can fix it. That was the idea, was let's see if we can clean it up later. They play it back, and everybody's like, no, this is the sound. And that's arguably one of the most famous, definitely most famous errors.
Right. And well, I mean, because you think about, Les Paul during those days, very clean. Dude
Chet
could
Atkins,
shred.
clean. Yeah.
Could absolutely shred.
Yep.
But
no distortion.
No distortion.
It was straight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that changed. And then
and Merle Travis.
Travis and all these electric pickers, they were all straight until that. And then some of them would venture. I've heard some of some of Chet Atkins do a little distortion, but it wasn't his.
Well, that wasn't his thing.
His bread and butter, and he was fine being Mr. Guitar Chet Atkins, so it worked out all right.
Yeah.
Certified guitar player, self-appointed.
Right. Well, I mean, he was amazing. I mean, he really was. So, all right, let's circle back to Bill.
Okay. So, I'd always Bill Cody, Trent Klutz.
Trent Klutz, yes.
Did you know that was his name?
I did.
Yeah, I did too. I never addressed him as such, but I knew that was Bill Cody's name. So I listened to Bill Cody for years, and I would call in, and I would be the kid that would request Uncle Dave Macon. And he'd be like, listen, that's going to put full chest on your hair, or hair on your chest. That's what he would say. He just had these quips about him.
Uh-huh.
And so we were at a convention at the Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center for Beta. And I'd asked my advisor, I said, we had free time. I said, I'm going to go to the Magnolia Lobby, which was the 40-year home of the WSM Studios. It was in the hotel. And I said, I'm just going to see if I can see anybody there. I'd met some others at events, but never at the studio. And so I met Charlie, his assistant cohort, Charlie Mattos. And I said, hey, I'd love to do something. And he said, well, let's set up a job shadow. I got the job shadow with the midday guy, Joe Lamarty, who took Bilber's place that day. But we began a conversation, and they didn't let seniors job shadow in high school. But since I was only there my senior year, they made an exception. And so as an 18-year-old, Dad went with me. We got up at dark and early, and we were there, I think, 7 to 9. And and they weren't even in the fishbowl. They weren't in the studio that you saw.
Right.
They were doing some work in it, so there was a studio like ours, an auxiliary studio that they could push some buttons and broadcast from. And so they were in that one. So I got to hang out the show and just watch him do it, and just in awe. And we would stay in contact from that moment. And like when I started the Justin Reed show, I called Bill, and he was over the moon excited, that I was competing against it, but not really, because MTS only reached Rutherford County. So
right.
WSM's,
But like you said, it's a small community.
Community, and he was just always so nice. And then I worked at WSM for 3 months. Let's back up. That was 2018. 2017, I got word that they were hiring, because the program director called me, because I'd seen him at events. You know how this works.
Sure.
I would always gravitate towards the radio people,
right,
and the musicians, but, oh, hey, you produce this, whatever. And so he called me and said, I just want you to know there's an opening if you want to apply. Okay, so I get on there, and I, for the first time, write a resume, because I didn't need one before, or I had them, but not for radio. I had them for other,
Sure.
You write them. So I write it and send it to him, and I wind up going a couple of times, and I interview with him, and I interview with other people. You've heard, the name Nan Kelly. Long time she was on GAC TV. She's also on some of the home shopping networks every now and then.
Right.
She's done a whole lot of stuff. She does cooking shows and country music shows. So she was going to be the afternoon co-host with Devin O'Day. Devin, longtime producer,
right.
Jerry House, the House Foundation, songwriter, all this stuff.
Right.
Well, Nan got too busy filming and whatnot, so Nan had to leave the show. So they're looking for a replacement for Devin. And it got between me and the girl that got the job. Like, we were that close. I was going to be the afternoon co-host on WSM from 3 to 6 weekdays.
Cool.
Right? And that didn't work out, and I was upset. Well, not upset, but disappointed, because I'd always want to work at WSM.
Right.
Always. Those 3 letters in our industry carry more weight than you would realize on a resume. Anytime you can work at a radio station with 3 call letters and not 4, it carries more weight, because there are only so many of those. And then if I have a handful of them, like if you work at WLS, WOW, some of these real famous ones, WSM, even more clout.
Right.
So we stayed in contact with me and that producer.
Well, I mean, WSM is the flagship for country music.
Right. It's the station that made country music famous, as their station ID used to say. So that was 2017. We stayed in contact with that guy in 2018. 2018, I'm in March, I'm in New York City for a radio conference. Daly and Vincent were being inducted as Opry members next weekend. I get an invitation because I know Darren very well. He's he's on the show the other day. I've been interviewing him since 2013. He's one of my longest running guests. And so I got an invitation to come for their media event backstage. Didn't get to go sit in the stands. We watched it from Studio A, which is where they filmed Hee Haw. Their induction, all that stuff. So I called my mother, who's a big Daly and Vincent fan. She says, everything okay? I'm in New York. I said, everything's fine. I said, do you have plans next Saturday? And she said, no, why? I said, well, we're going to the Opry for Daly and Vincent. She said, we get to see them. I said, yeah, it's their press thing. So anyway, so we go, and while I'm sitting there backstage and we're eating at this event, and Mom's there with me, and I'm talking with Ranger Doug of Riders in the Sky, which, by the way, Ernest Tubb inducted them as an Opry member, the last person he inducted, because I asked Ranger Doug that, because he's a historian too. So he, and just seeing all these, because I know all these people, not bragging, but from work, you interview
Doug,
these people.
Woody Paul, and Too Slim.
There you go, and Joey the Cowpoke King, their cowboy way. In the middle of eating it, standing in line to get food, the program director at WSM walks over and goes, I didn't expect to see you here. Yeah, I got invited, this, that, and the other. And then a few weeks later, he called and said, I've got an opening, and it's not what you want. It's a part-time board op, I was running the board for Opry shows, but I never got to crack the mic. But I was there for 3 months. And I got married right after I quit working there. But I wasn't fired. I quit getting scheduled, because I was just a 1099 anyways. But I feel like that was his nice way, because he wasn't there too much longer after I quit getting scheduled. So I didn't have to get fired. I just quit being put on the list. If you understand a nice way of putting that. Not that I did anything to get fired, but things were changing there. This, that, and the other. But so for 3 months I did work at WSM.
Well, I mean, they're even legends.
Yeah.
Found themselves without a job there. Because we talked about Keith Bilber and that kind of...
Oh, there was a lot, But so, as soon as Bill found out, he sent me a message. He said, I'm so happy. No, he replied to the company email, because they would send out a week at a time. Okay, who's off this week? Who's running the board? Who's doing sales or promotions? What remotes? Whatever events. And he said, I'm so glad that Justin's on board. He's been a faithful listener. He just it was very nice to hear Bill say that. And we would see each other a few other times since then. Actually, we talked last on his birthday, December 16th last year. Just shot him happy birthday, but he sent me he didn't have to reply back. Mm-hmm. But he did, and that was just the kind of guy.
Yeah.
And my whole feed was just nothing but people sharing. I think about his first interview on WSM in '94 when he came to town was Charlie Daniels, who called him the first day and welcomed him to town. Mm. And when Charlie died in July 6th of 20, not of COVID, but he just had other medical issues.
Old.
He was old, but aneurysm or something like that's what.
But I mean, a lot of people didn't realize, because he was timeless.
Yeah, he was 84. But my whole feed for about a week after Charlie passed was just people sharing pictures with Charlie, and it was all good and positive.
Yeah.
And then it was the same thing when Bill passed. It almost felt like it was Charlie all over again, because nobody had a bad Charlie Daniels story. Nobody had a bad Bill Cody story. And the story I told you is unique to me, yes, but the same key elements I read in everybody's story, because he went out of their way for them. And this is a guy who didn't have to.
Right. No, he was just such a genuine, real person.
He's what taught me what a radio personality is, and he didn't know that. But I saw how he reacted at remotes and events, and one day he'd be interviewing Ray Price, and then the next day he would interview Carly Pierce for her first ever radio interview. Now we know how big Carly is, right? But I was listening to one of her first interviews, and he treated her the same way that he treated Ray Price or Merle Haggard or whoever, because he knew all these guys, and he knew that Merle Haggard had his first radio interview.
Right.
Now, that was a long time ago, before he was the Merle Haggard, you think. But he treated everybody as if they're somebody. And I try to do the same, because I think, 15 years in radio, probably over 1,000 people I've interviewed at this point in all facets of different shows and whatnot. And I go, okay, some of these people, they may not make it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I was your first radio interview today, right?
Yeah.
You'll never get another first.
Right. You edged out Bill Wilson by 4 days.
Sorry, Bill. I hope he's still my good neighbor, GNS. But that's just what I think about Bill. And I pattern a lot of my interviews after Bill Cody. I kind of, in life, they tell you to get the job you want, right? I pattern what I want to do after people that I thought did good. I give this life advice. Here's you some life advice. It's free. If you don't like it, return it,
Right.
If you want to get better at speaking, do I need to just, okay. If you want to get better at speaking, listen to good speakers. Whoever you think's a good speaker.
Yes.
You and I both preach. I don't know how often that comes through on a podcast. If I want to get better at preaching, maybe I listen to a lot of old preachers. Maybe I want to see how they do it. In radio, I want to learn how to do a good interview. So I listen to people that I thought did good interviews. And you don't do what they do, but you kind of pattern it. And he would just, like earlier, just started quoting Billy Joe Shaver with that devil made me do it the first time. You said that like Bill would do that. He would just go off. I tried to pattern after 3 people, Bill Cody, Eddie Stubbs, and Keith Bilbrey, which were all 3 different interviews.
Right.
Because Eddie Stubbs was Lurch from the Addams Family, but he was the encyclopedia.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, talk about somebody with an encyclopedic
and
knowledge.
His was a textbook question. And Bill knew the same info, but it was a conversational question. The Keith Bilbrey's kind of the middle.
Right.
That's how I view them. And so I would try to take different parts about them. But what I loved about Bill Cody was you listen to an interview, and let's just say that you're from Left Hand, West Virginia. Did you know there's a Left Hand, West Virginia?
I did not know that. I've been to all over West Virginia, but I have not been to Left Hand.
I have a friend, lady in West Virginia. I know her through a church. Anyways, I just happen to know that it's 25251 is their zip code, because that's just a fun little zip code. Mm-hmm. But like if you were from Left Hand, Bill would go, and we're glad to have Big John Summers here today, the pride of 25251. And he would know something about that town. Now, he'd looked it up.
Sure.
But it was right there, because you're coming in for the first time. You're nervous, especially on WSM.
And it's very disarming.
Everybody in the world is listening to you. And he'd break the ice. That's why I try to make ours conversational. In fact, I don't call them interviews. I don't like to do an interview.
I don't either. I call them conversations.
They're conversations.
Yeah.
And I think about it's 2 old friends that are sitting together talking, and it's you and me and the listener. Mm-hmm. And so if you listen to the Justin Reed Show, and I'm very cognizant of it, you'll never hear me say it. And you almost said it, but I'm glad you caught yourself. I never say the listeners should. Because the moment you do that, it takes them out of the conversation.
Right.
If I say, you can find John's podcast wherever you listen, you're in this conversation.
Right.
It's a 3-way conversation where only 2 people are talking. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes it's a 2-way conversation where I'm the only one talking, but you're listening to me. So it's never good morning to the listeners. It's I hope you're having a good Thursday. Mm-hmm. And I learned that from, Bill never told me that, but I learned that from listening. And sometimes I would more listen to how he did an interview than who he's talking to. It may be somebody that their music's not really my cup of tea. That's fine. We all have different preferences. So then I would tune out of the content and I would listen to the structure.
Right.
And I've told that here since Main Street bought it. I kind of became a coach when they would bring on new people. I'm like, okay, here I'm going to give you some tips that I've learned that nobody told me. But I'm going to tell you, and you don't have to listen to any of them. But I would notice that sometimes even having that conversation would make some of the hosts that we have had change how they interview, because they would come in and they would get their sheet of paper, and I'm going to do this purposely so it rattles in the microphone, which I hate. They go, today's guest is John Summers, look up, and it would be so structured. And then if you start as a conversation, it flows better. The listener is wanting to listen to more.
Right.
They go, oh no, our hour is done, not, oh, that was the longest hour of my life.
Right. So do you notice how many notes I had?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you and I, did you notice how many notes I had on yours?
Exactly.
The only note I had on yours was I Googled the Tennessee radio or history nerd.
To make sure you said that right.
To make sure I knew the path to Google. Because I know you were going to give me the website.
Right.
But I know how listeners are, especially to the radio.
Right.
Because I'd say 1/3 of them are at home where they can write something down, and 1/3 are in the car,
Nope.
and 1/3 are somewhere else.
Right.
So instead of, like, if I write commercial copy, because I used to be in sales, I rarely give physical addresses unless it's by a landmark. Mm-hmm. Like some of the sponsors on my show, I won't say their names because they're not sponsoring your podcast, but it's on the Strip. And if you're listening in McMinnville, you know there's a designated strip of road where we
Chancery
say
Street.
North Chancery Street or the New Smithville Highway, because it shifts from one or the other. But if you say on the Strip, okay, I may give you the address, but you're really listening for try to be careful how you give phone numbers. Make it where it's memorable. Break it down. Because I go, okay, if I hear this for the first time, what are you actually going to hear in this ad? Are you going to hear it's lunchtime and go eat at this place? Or are you going to hear baked fish and not hear where this ad is? Or am I only going to hear the business name once? I try to be very cognizant because I do it when I do this. I do it when I preach. Okay, what am I saying and what are people actually hearing? Because that's different. The great Phil Valentine used to say he had a lot of Van Gogh listeners. They only had one ear.
Only have one ear.
That's what he was making the reference to. Van Gogh cutting his ear off and all that gross stuff. But I don't say that making fun of the listeners, but
it's human nature.
I would be foolish. You're in a little different medium than me. People are purposely on this. They're not just finding it. Every break I say, you're listening to the Justin Reed Show, and I take requests. So every break I give the phone number because I'm foolish to think that everybody listens from 9 to noon. Understand that you may hear me from 9:12 to 10:38. Or you may hear me at 11:45 to noon. It's whenever. So you've got to keep bringing people in. And I learned that from Bill, because Bill would do that. And the other thing I learned, then I'll stop talking about his interviews. And you'll notice I did it with yours. But every couple of minutes, I do a hard stop in the conversation. Big John Summers is here. He's on the Justin Reed Show. You do that because it's different podcasts. You would be hard-pressed to skip to right this moment in our conversation and not know who it is.
Right.
But in the radio, I've even done it on other stations. I'll hear it go, that sounds like whoever. That sounds like that's Ella Langley. Well, I don't know. The interviewer hadn't said anything that's definite enough that I can figure that out.
Right.
Right. Almost said Darren Vincent, like, no, you'd know that's him. But some people, well, that may be or maybe not. So I purposely, every couple of minutes, just go, and you're listening to the Justin Reed Show. Our guest today is John Summers. Just plain and simple. But I learned that because I went, why does Bill Cody keep saying this is WSM? I know it's WSM. He's not saying it for me.
Right.
Well,
to your point about learning to interview.
Yeah.
By talking to, or by watching other people interview. The person that I really try to model my interview style after is a pretty famous guy by the name of Dan Rather.
Okay.
Who, if you've ever watched on Access TV.
Oh, he does good music interviews.
The Big Interview.
The Big Interview does some good ones.
And I have watched dozens of those. And there's a question I'm going to hit you with that comes directly from him when we get to the end.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
But I will say this in kind of in homage to what you just did. You're listening to Big John and Justin Reed on the Tennessee History Nerd. This is the Tennessee History Nerd, my interview with Justin Reed, radio personality, on WOWC 105.3 FM in McMinnville, Tennessee. And I said that the way a radio personality would say it, not the way a native would say it. I'm going to say it now the way I would say it growing up. McMinnville.
Yep. So my mother's an English teacher, so on the radio it's McMinnville.
Right.
That's how I say it. I've had people say, you don't talk like you're from here. I said, thank you. My mother appreciates that,
Right.
It is what it is, but it's helped.
And by the way, his mom also is from McMinnville.
She is. Married an old Woodbury guy,
And I was born in Woodbury, so.
Yep. I spent the first 25 years of my life as a resident of 37190, and then I got married and moved to the big city of McMinnville. So,
right.
And now we live in the county, so I see where they pay higher taxes, and I wave.
Right. And having grown up in Warren County, it's kind of funny. I was born in Woodbury. Early years was on the same farm I live on now.
Okay.
In Coffee County. Mom and Dad lived where my grandparents lived in Warren County. They're I guess you'd say it's the Chris Springs community. It's
Okay.
almost the Jacksboro community. It's on,
Right.
and I'm going to say this the right way, not the way my mom wants me to say it. I'm going to say it the right way. Old Chevel Road.
O'Chevel. Yeah.
And she used to
I
get
know, because
so.
I was close to Smithville, so I get it.
So she was really upset when I didn't properly enunciate and say Old Shelbyville Road.
There's too many syllables in Shelbyville for it
Right.
to sound right. And I love people in Shelbyville, but it's Chevel.
And the interesting thing is that I just did the Bedford County episode.
Yep, there you
we were talking
go.
about that. So let me ask you a question here. You know, this is something that I've encountered. I'm interested to see what you've encountered along this lines. One of the things I've found out as a I'll say public personality, member of the media, is there are minefields that you sometimes
Well, have you noticed?
wandered into and had no idea they were there until things start blowing up around you. What was your minefield? Your biggest one, I'll say, or one that you want to talk about.
For almost 5 years, there was a show on one of our sister stations. I'm on Wow Country. If I say WBMC, you probably think of a show called Town Talk, which has been on for 45 plus years. For many years, it was co-hosted with Kelly Marlowe and Coach Bobby Newby. I worked here in the last of Pa Kelly's time, and I filled in with Marlowe a few times. Kelly Marlowe, I usually called him Marlowe. We had two Kellys that worked here. One was a boy and one was a girl, so we kind of went with last names, you know. He would say he was the ugly Kelly, but other than that. So I worked with Marlowe. During COVID, they sent him home because he was 83 with a pacemaker.
Right.
You know, we didn't know what we know now, and this isn't a political statement, but things were different then. So I filled in for him every day. I'd do his shift, and then I would do afternoons on Wow. You know, voice track, go back home, and or records what voice track is. And so one of the things we would have fun with, and Kelly would listen to the show because he's just at home. And so the running joke was day one, because we didn't tell the listeners this was happening. We had a company meeting on Friday, and starting on Monday, we had different protocol. Kelly Marlowe has been abducted by aliens. And he would call in and go like, oh, they've been probing me. You know, he'd have fun.
Oh, wow.
And this was kind of a landmine. This is one of the few times I do a lot of jokes in radio. I make quips that I know 28 people got. But to those 28 people, I made their day. And everybody else listening, oh, that's funny. But they didn't get they may not get the both kinds reference. You know, a little deeper than that. And one lady called, and she said, you know, aliens aren't real. And he's not been abducted by aliens. He's at home. And so I leaned into the mic and said, well, if you want to ruin all the fun, yes, he is. I'm like, you're the only person. We've been doing it for 5 weeks, you know, kind of. And then I had to come back on later, and I said, I may have been a little too harsh on that. It was the inside joke that everybody was inside on.
Right.
So why would you need to explain it, you know? A lot of my fun happened on Town Talk, because then later, Jason Hillis did the show with Kelly Marlowe. These names don't mean a lot to everybody, but you'll know who I'm talking about, or at least some of them. So when Jason left, then it was Jeff Barnes and Jason Hillis. I took over for Jason, so it was Barnes and I. And I was Barnes' co-host till he left the radio. He'd worked here for 38 years, went on to different things. Now he's back. And so then I became the first solo host of Town Talk in its 4+ decade career. So now I told people, I'm your co-host. You and I do the show together. It's a call-in show, local community. You know, we would take yard sales, and
right.
People would ask questions about wasps. So whatever. And you'd interview people. I'm not a political guy. I don't talk politics on the radio. There's a time and place for that. I personally don't think morning radio is the place for it.
Not unless you're doing a talk radio show that's your...
That's it. But in our area, there are enough talk stations you can pick up.
Sure.
So I want to be the break from it. And people previous to me on Town Talk had made it more political. So I try to bring it back to what I thought it should be, more of a little community local show. But that being said, I would interview politicians, because, I was on the air on that show from on and off from 20, filled in 20 for 6 weeks, filled in 21 when needed, then I was on it consistently from half of 22 all the way through half of 25. So 5 years I was on Town Talk, more or less. And so I would interview politicians, and I would say, okay, we're not going to talk politics, but I'm going to interview you. and sometimes they would want to get off. And so I would take the interviews like this. Let's say that you're our state representative. John Summers is here. He's the representative for the 4th District. John, what do you do? And I don't mean it as a bad thing, but we all vote, or you should vote, right? We push the button beside it, and then we send you off to Nashville, we send you off to Washington, and I don't know what in the world you do. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but that was always my opening question, and some took offense to that, even though I don't publish questions ahead of time, but I would always tell them, here's your first question. But some took offense because then they thought, then they'd go on the defensive, thinking I didn't think they worked. That's not what I said.
Right.
I want to look at it from you're not running for office conversation, although some of them were in the political window, which is when you have to talk politics, all that mess. But I said, here's what I want to know. What do you do in Washington? I live in the county. I'd just be quite honest. None of my district, none of my local people were up for election in the 24 election. So I could vote for State House, State Senate, U.S. House, U.S. Senate, the President. And I interviewed for the state of Tennessee 4 of the 5 people that I could vote for that won leading up to that. And for some reason, Mr. Trump decided not to come on the show. He was the only one that I did. I know, but and I'm not saying that to get political, but it's like I interviewed all these people.
Rascal.
I know. And I asked them all the same questions, but some of them took it as on the offensive, and others ran with it, which is what I wanted. And this was you get 4 minutes to say, hey, I work on this committee, and we meet to do this. And you could mention political things without being political. You know, there's a difference, right? And that was probably one of the ones that I would get into hot water. I will say a funny one with, she's currently the first senator for Tennessee, is Marsha Blackburn. She's running for governor. I'm not talking about any of that. This was 2 years ago. I got word that I could interview her, and I had 10 minutes. Now, when you interview some musicians, they're on tour, they say you have 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes because they're between stops. I had her walking from her office to go into the Senate building. That's literally it. I got 11 minutes out of her, you know, but I had to do the show early. I had to start the show early because she could call me at 7:20. The show started at 7:35. Well, yeah, I'm going to talk to a senator. I mean, you don't get that call every day. That just looks good on the resume. Well, since I did the interview so early, I learned this from Bill Cody. If you do an early interview, replay it later in the week at a different time because you have a different audience. So if he had somebody could come at 7, he'd play him at 9 3 days later, different audience. So I said,
heard him do that.
Right. So I started the show. I said, hey, we started the show early. If you just missed it, we just talked with Senator Blackburn, and we'll re-air the interview Thursday, whatever day it was. I think it was a Tuesday, playing on Thursday. We did it live and recorded it. Well, then political ad started the next day, and I got called into a meeting because they thought a political ad had aired before the contract had started. And I said, well, if she bought a 10-minute political ad, sure. They didn't look at the time signatures. They just saw that something played. So that was the closest I got to getting in trouble.
Wow.
And then I said, okay, if you look at it, 1, it's 10 minutes because, you know, you can look at the time signature. 2, we use numbers. It wasn't in a commercial number. It was a number where I put all my stuff on. I have my own number. Anything I work on is this certain number, so I know where it is in the system. But that almost got me in hot water. Like, I was on a conference call. I'm like, okay, let me tell you what it was. I can play the interview if you want to. And then it cleared everything up. But I thought, maybe I'm done interviewing politicians for the time being.
Right.
But still, just the fact that they want to, because she asked for it. They wanted to come on the show. That means the world to me. When I have musicians that reach out and go, hey, can I come on your show? I've heard you do a good interview. And I'm only here to make the guests look good. Everything I do is an underhanded volleyball, and every time I set up where you can spike it if you want to. That's the job as the host. Now, you go on some talk shows, and they're there to degrade the guest.
Right.
But if you get out of political, that's just two people having a conversation. We're talking about your job, you're talking about my job. Does that make sense?
It does. And if you enjoy the way we tell stories here on the Tennessee History Nerd, there's another show you might want to check out, Dauphin Island Diaries. Same approach, different setting. Stories from the Gulf Coast, rooted in place and built from the sources up. You can find it wherever you're listening right now. And now, back to our story. me be very clear. I am not Morton Downey Jr.
Yeah.
So, and some people won't remember that reference.
Right.
But for those of you who don't remember that reference, it's okay. But he was a shock jock kind of
Right.
person, and people were brought on to be ambushed.
It was pre-Howard Stern, right?
Yeah, pre-Howard
Yeah.
Stern. Yeah, this would have.
But that's who people think of shock jock.
Yeah, this was. Well, I say it was before. It's before he became famous.
Right. Yeah.
To the on the national level. But anyway, the thing from my perspective is, I bring on people that I want to know more from, people that I know more about something than I do, which a lot of times is not hard to do. And the reason I asked this question to kind of give you some background. We were talking Bedford County
Right.
earlier. I don't know how much you've been following my page and seeing what's happening on it.
Comes and goes.
It comes and goes, and that's fine. But as I was driving around shooting video of places that I thought were relevant in Bedford County, I stopped at the nearest green distillery.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a whiskey drinker.
Right. I don't drink. Yep.
So I mean, it's from my perspective, nearest green has historical relevance.
Yeah.
But I made the mistake of having been told, hey, this is a successful black-owned distillery, of making that statement. I was excoriated for that. Because evidently the leadership of that company the company's now in receivership. Not exactly successful anymore. And there have been some questions about the legal, how they conducted business that not being
Right.
entirely legal. So, not knowing that, but if you go out and you find
Right.
that video,
Okay.
I've had to put a disclaimer out there on
So
that.
thinking of videos, I still have another one that kind of gets in hot water. So we film. I told you on the radio show, the Justin Reed Show is a radio show that people film content for. We have cameras in the studio. We'll clip some stuff, especially when guests are in. We'll clip their song. We post a video Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. Different stuff. Like one day a week, we have For the Record, a segment I used to do in Murfreesboro, where I take an album that's still sealed, I open it live on the air for the first time, and play something, because that song has never been played, right? Because every copy of vinyl is unique, and every time you play it, it wears it down just a hair. Don't believe me? Look at your grandmother's record collection. You can tell which songs on the LP she liked, right? Because they're worn down just a little bit. So we have a good segment with that. One is on the B side, where we take a 45 and flip it over, because back in the day you got two songs for the price of two, right? You paid for both of them, but you flipped it over. And I've lately had people comment, and they want me to play the song. We film it over here on the turntable, and sometimes they're played on the air. Sometimes we just have to film a B-side real quick. Everything else is on the air, but sometimes we just have to film those ahead of time. And people are like, play the song. Or I have people use expletives, and I don't curse, but play the song. And they get mad that on the video I don't play what the B-side is. I can't stream the song online on our social media, on Facebook or Instagram, at The Justin Reed Show, like and follow. I can't, because I'll get flagged for it, right? And then even if I did the song, then Meadow would mute part of that content. So I keep having people, and I'm polite about it. I'm like, I can't play the song, but if you'd listen to The Justin Reed Show, you'd hear the song.
Right.
But it's somewhat of a different audience. That's some of my Facebook than the actual listening audience. So I just chalk it up to it is what it is. But
Well,
that's making people frustrated. Every time I do it, I know somebody's going to get mad at this, but that's the segment.
Right. Well, I mean, I've had people angry because I don't tell the whole story,
Right.
or what. You've got 30 seconds. You can't tell the whole story.
Right.
Or you've got a minute. I mean, because these reels,
Yeah.
if you tell the whole story,
Yeah.
it's a documentary. It's an hour long.
Right.
And
And then you Ken Burns.
but Facebook won't distribute it.
Won't just show up.
Right.
You know, we've about found, knock on wood, the sweet spot for ours, that it shows up in your feed, in like when you're just scrolling through reels. I'll see the Justin Reed Show stuff show up on my account. I'm like, that tells me I'm doing something. If I'm seeing my own videos from another account showing up as I'm scrolling, I'll see your, other people that you follow show up, plus the other ones they want you to see. But it's like, okay, here's about where we want to be, and I only say that they're probably between 30 and 45 for being quite honest. The ones that are longer are the actual unopened, because I'm opening it as we go. It's not. Maybe here's a little inside baseball. I may have started the corner before we started the thing, because I don't want to stand there for 3 minutes while I'm live on the air trying to cut in this 40-year-old cellophane. So I started a little bit, but the whole thing's open, and it's playing for the first time, which is a unique thing. And it's become a favorite segment, to the degree that I had a guest come on a few weeks ago and brought me a whole stack of sealed albums from his collection to open on my show.
That's awesome.
Or I've had other friends in the building go to a concert, buy an album, and say, here, open this on your show. Or friends that listen. I did one time. Johnny Paycheck.
Oh, wow.
Slide Off of Those Satin Sheets album. A friend of mine bought it brand new, and it was a pricey album. And he sent me a picture of the day that he bought it. And he said, do you want to open this on your show? And I said, if you'll let me. So I did. And he didn't give the sticker price for it, but it was not a $3 record, right? Been sealed since like 77, 78. And so we opened it, and one of my favorite comments on there, somebody said, my soul just died a little bit when you opened it. But I mean, it wasn't meant to be saved. It was meant for you to open it, play it.
Well, that's the whole point.
But it was just kind of, so you get these little things, people like, or we'll get the comments, oh, I had that. Or, it's just kind of funny. There's an album, there's one that's coming out for the Glazer Brothers, because we'll film those ahead of time on the radio and then post them on Tuesdays. And
the Glazer Brothers.
Yep. This one album, I've actually opened it twice on the air. I opened it once in Murfreesboro, and then the friend gave it to me, and it's one of my top 20 favorite albums of all time, so I know it forwards and backwards. And so I was like, what are the odds that I have opened the same album twice, 2 different copies, still sealed, twice on the same show in like a 10-year span?
Right.
Well,
I'm going to throw out some more trivia for you.
Okay.
So we talked about Joe Taylor earlier.
Yep.
Joe managed Jim Glazer.
Okay.
And Jim ended up actually becoming Joe's office manager.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to know Jim right towards the end of his life. He lived in Murfreesboro.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me his number or his email, and we never could get an interview scheduled. But I have a selfie with him, and he claimed it was his first ever selfie. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what he claimed. And I'm not going to tell Jim Glazer of the Glazer Brothers. Yeah, they're not going to do
Lie
that.
like a dog.
They sing harmony on a lot of Marty Robbins stuff.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised. I mean, what everybody probably knows is that he wrote one of Gary Puckett's biggest ever hits.
Yeah, Woman.
Woman.
That's a good one. But I almost like hearing him do it better.
I like his version, but
I'm always something about hearing the songwriter do their song. It takes a new life.
It does.
I'm not saying it's a better version. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
Right, but the thing that I'll say is the version you hear first has probably about a 75% chance of being your favorite.
Right, that's true.
And
that's true.
Of course, Gary Puckett. I heard it many times.
And the Union Gap.
And those cats dressed in Union uniforms.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, so that was.
So thinking of songwriters, this is another tangent, but I was at an event, and I love songwriters. I love hearing them play their stuff. And Dickie Lee was up on the stage. You remember Dickie Lee?
I remember the name.
He was a rock and roller, lefty rock and roller. He was a songwriter, crossover into country.
Right.
9,999,999 tears to go. He said he's never said that right, just joking. So it was an event, and it was a reunion of professional entertainers, so a bunch of older people, and he's up on stage, and he's playing some songs that he's written, Doors Always Open, had a hand in that and stuff. And he said, I wrote this song back in like 60, 61, and I cut it, and it did okay. It's fine. And then this boy from Texas, George Jones was his name, and he cut it, and it did pretty good. And then this lady from Canada named Anne Murray cut it, changed the gender on it, and it did really good. And then Elvis cut it, and I bought a new house. Because he wrote, he thinks I still care, or she thinks I still care.
Right.
And it was funny, the progression, because I knew where this was going. But
Right.
not everybody knew the song. You would think, you got a George Jones cut. Well, you could retire. Okay. You got an Anne Murray cut. And, oh, Elvis cut your song,
And then was it Pinkerton Bowden?
Yeah.
She thinks I steal cars.
I play some Pinkerton Bowden every now and then. Help me make it through the yard. And Mama, he's lazy.
And
I love.
I beg your pardon. I'm standing in Rosie's garden.
I love Pinkerton Bowden. I love the Giesenslaws. I love Homer and Jethro. I love Lonzo and Oscar. Ray Stevens to a degree, but his is kind of adjacent to those. But I miss the parody people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you
don't have that today. Cletus T. Yeah, and he's making a comeback, but his were still a little different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my favorite from him is Every Light in the House is Blown.
Every light in the house is blown. They're my Indian in-laws. My cellmate thinks I'm sexy instead of attractive sexy. Let's see. What else did he have? Of course, I love NASCAR. That was a charting hit for him. Would you bake me a country ham? That'll bring a tear to a glass eye. Instead of paint me a Birmingham. Would you bake me a country ham? Serve it up with a can of Spam. It was just so good. You miss things like that, and that's where I'm afraid a lot of music is today, is that people don't want their songs made fun of. But only making fun of the song sells more songs for you.
Well, and that was something that, you look at the difference on the pop side, like with the Weird Al Yankovic kind of guy. Somebody that embraced that was Michael Jackson.
Yep.
Somebody that wouldn't allow it was Prince.
Yeah. And look where they happened to them. No, but I heard it said, Bill Anderson, I think, said it one time on a Country Family. If it wasn't him, somebody said it on there. They said, you knew you had a hit song when Homer and Jethro did a parody.
Right. And that's the way
and
people
you look
talk
at their
about
albums, and it's almost a time capsule of 1963. Because these are all the hit songs from 62 that they've now, the Battle of Cucamonga was the Battle of New Orleans, and, had all these hits. And you don't see that today.
Not in the country world.
Right, yeah. I mean, you still do with Weird Al, yeah. Certainly.
Well, and you were mentioning Don McLean earlier.
Yep.
American Pie.
Yep. Mr. Anakin guy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
the saga begins.
The saga begins.
And the video for that
great.
is really, really good. So
you got time for a Don McLean story?
I've got plenty of time.
Okay. Because tape is cheap, right? That's what I tell people when we record, because it's all digital.
It's digital.
Yeah, so there's no tape. That's usually what I say to East people when I'm recording a spot. Don't worry, tape is cheap, because some of them are used to splicing. So I got an invitation to interview Don McLean in 2018. And I never mean name drop, but you have to when you talk about these stories. He had an exhibit at the Country Music Hall of Fame where he was donating a guitar, and they had a facsimile of his American Pie lyrics. Because he sold the original American Pie lyrics. I think Sotheby's or Christie's, one of the big auction houses, made a facsimile replica to give him. So it's as good as having the real thing, except he's millions of dollars richer and has a copy. So the lyrics were on display but not owned, but he donated the guitar, and he was having a new album come out, so it was a big deal. And so it was, he couldn't come to the studio. So go to his hotel room at the Omni. I had a slot, 15 minutes, whatever. So I get there. Of course, I feel like a fish out of water at the Omni, because that's not where we would always stay, just being quite honest. Especially not the downtown.
Tom Bodette leaves a lot on for me. So.
Right, especially the one downtown Nashville across the Hall of Fame. But I'd been there for other events, so I kind of knew my way around, knew the promoter. That's how it was, knew the promoter. And so I'm sitting, Don McLean. We're here to talk about the new album, but we'll wind up on the album. I want to talk about Vincent. I want to talk about Crying. I want to talk about American Pie. And I like to ask questions in interviews that they don't get asked 48 times, especially on a press junket, because you ask them questions, they get tired of answering the questions. So I said, Mr. McLean. He said, Don. I said, Mr. Don. So I couldn't call him Don. I said, did they say, come here, we're going to paint your thumb? You remember the album cover for American Pie is that famous, And he said, actually, yeah. And I could tell, like, he hadn't been asked that in a while. And so he didn't have a guitar, but he acted like he had a guitar in his lap. And he held his thumb out and cocked his head sideways. And I had chills run up my spine. Because it's him doing, top 5 most iconic album covers, not top 5, top 10 of all time, genre. I mean, that's on the list. And he said, and we filmed, or he said, we took 200 photos, and he's only ever seen that one. He said, they're in a vault somewhere. Can you imagine seeing other close to it, but not quite? I mean, because that is an iconic album cover,
right.
You know, and then we had a fun interview because, okay, now.
Icebreaker.
Well, that was probably second question. But then he was anything you want, here you go, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah, it's kind of fun. And when we did WBMC, if there was ever a problem and I need to be running to the other building to reset stuff, if you ever heard American Pie early in the morning before Town Talk on WBMC, you knew it wasn't a good day. And I think they may still use it, but I needed it's 8.5 minutes.
I mean, the only thing that would have been better would have been Hey Jude.
Right. But I could kind of get away with more with American Pie. But I would play it because then I could run all over the building and reset stuff and not have to come back and fire another song after 2 minutes, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I would have a boss go, all right, I hear the song, what's wrong? You know, that was just kind of
that's your signal to the
world. That was my signal. You know, I had some CCR stuff I'd throw in if it was really bad. If you heard like 2 or 3 of these in a row, we may not be having a live show today. Just
right.
For a while, I was the only person running 4 stations. So if I'd walk in, you never know. Power out. We have a generator, so we're never out. But if power blips, then you got to reboot stuff. You know how it is. So it's just like, if you hear American Pie, it's not a good day for Town Talk with Justin Reed. But it all works out in the end, you know.
Now, should I cut that out, or do you want that known at this point?
Oh, the listeners knew.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, the listeners are. That's what made it fun.
Okay.
I like inside jokes that if you're along for the ride long enough, you know the inside joke.
Right.
But I may never explain it. I may hint at it. You know,
right.
Sorry you heard our song, we're late. You know, something.
Right.
And then when you hear it again, you go, that must be what he's talking about. Cause
and I will say, referencing Trent.
Yeah.
That would have been, you know, those were the kind of
right.
things he would drop. So I'm going to tell a fun story. You'll enjoy this.
Okay.
Listening to Bill Cody one morning, he was a Baptist minister's son.
Yep.
And he would reference that from time to time. And one day, one of the people calls in and mentions, you know, along the lines of the whole church thing. He said they were having a revival, and this was back in the early 70s when miniskirts were really popular.
Right.
And the preacher and his wife, who were doing the, quote, revival, were very, very upset and offended by all of this. And so they decided to break all the young people out into 2 groups. She was going to have a talk with all the young ladies. Mm-hmm. He was going to have a talk with all the young men. And so they had this period of haranguing that they went through. And during the one point in with the young men's session, the preacher was like, these young ladies are wearing these dresses that you can see almost all the way up into their promised land. So they get in for the service. Mm-hmm. First song the song leader picks out is I Am Bound for the Promised Land.
Oh, no. It's about as bad as the church service where the preacher was preaching against alcohol, and he said, what we all need to do is go pour all our alcohol down in the river. Then the invitation song was, shall we gather at the river? And you go, oh, that wasn't planned, you know? I will tell you, because I've led singing before. Preaching's my main job, but I've led singing. And for a mutual friend of ours, and I'll leave Alan's name out of this, so he's not involved. But I wound up leading singing for him one night.
Okay.
And I said, so do you want Ready to Suffer before or after the sermon? He said, that's harsh. I'm like, well, you do the same to me. He said, yeah, you're fair. You know.
Right.
You got to have fun where you're at. He's a good song leader, too, but he was preaching, and the song leader was sick on the way to church. So,
okay.
Can you lead? Yeah, you know.
Well, you know, one of my mentors was Tom. You know who I mean by that. And he told the story of a situation where the preacher was constantly with the song leader having some getting crossways with them.
Right.
And so he had led Ready to Suffer right before the lesson. That was a normal thing that he would do. And then before he finished for the day, he announced, well, Jesus has called for me to leave and take on a new work elsewhere, and he explained all that, and then songwriter got up for the closing song, "What a Friend We Have in Jesus."
And I'd believe it, because you can't make this stuff up, you know. Funny stuff happens in church. People just don't realize it.
Oh.
But
So yeah.
I like it. I can see the Tom that you mentioned. I knew him. I can see that.
He was one of my mentors. I got to do mission work in South America with him, and he actually he officiated Michelle and my wedding.
Okay. So when I used to work at the bookstore in Murfreesboro, it was my job to reorder, and the first time I had to call, he wrote a lot of books.
Oh, yes, he did.
First time I had to call him is, I'm glad I left a voicemail, because I don't get nervous. Talk to a lot of people. But I was kind of nervous, and I'm like, Mr. Tom, I didn't call him Mr. Tom, but Mr. Tom, I'm a big fan, love your books. We need to order some more. Call me when you can. Buy.
And he was the most regular.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He actually also, my first wife, when she passed away, he did her eulogy.
Okay. So. Good man. Good man.
Good man. I still miss him. I considered him a dear friend.
Not Spider-Man, but a good man.
Yeah.
That's a deep cut reference, which you didn't get.
I didn't.
I'll explain it to you later.
Okay. So.
On your scratch and sniff card. Number 4.
Digging in here. What is you're constantly dropping references, and it's one of those things, like you said, maybe 28 people get it.
Yeah.
How often does it happen that 28 was optimistic, nobody gets it, and you're like, I can't believe nobody got that?
Oh, so that's the glory of it. I don't know. That's the best part of it.
Well, you don't on the radio.
Right, I don't on the radio.
But you're not always on the radio.
No. Rarely does something go over where nobody gets it. But if not enough people get it, then you pivot and you start to explain it. But you explain it in a funny way.
Okay. Give me an example.
As I said, so I preach. And I usually start out a sermon with a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And I developed that when I'd go visit places as an icebreaker. Some places you go, you don't know me. I know the preacher and maybe one of the members, right? But they've invited me to come out and speak. I've got 30 minutes.
Like, for example, maybe, I don't know, Grundy Street in Tullahoma.
Maybe Grundy Street in Tullahoma, where you only know the preacher, and he's not there every time you show up to preach there. So, there's that. One out of the 4 I've been there, so maybe 2. Anyway, so I just developed that, and I started Arlington, and so it's just kind of expected. And maybe sometimes I try to make the joke fit. Maybe I won't. And I'm trying to think, but a few weeks ago, I told one that just didn't go over. Like, a few chuckles, but it fell flat. To the degree that I said, some of you, we do 2 services in the morning, and I said, some of you who leave at 9 may want to stay for 11 to see if I can redeem myself with the joke. Like, to that degree. And then that kind of got a laugh, and I just explained a little bit, but I move on. But there's one of our deacons, a good friend of mine. He's my straight man. He's normally sitting up front, and so I'll go, did you get that, Troy? Sitting there, Troy, here's what it is. And so I start to explain it to him. And as I start, and he's a good sport, and as I start to explain it to him, then people, they start laughing, because now as it's being explained to them, they don't feel bad that they didn't get it, because now I'm explaining it to him, but I'm really explaining it to everybody, because he probably got the joke. I don't remember what it was. I told one Sunday that not as many people laughed as I thought. But, John, do you know who the most business-savvy woman in the Bible is? It's Pharaoh's daughter. She went down to the bank of the Nile and pulled out a little profit. See, but you laugh. But there were some people who, they didn't realize the little prophet was a PH and not an FIT,
Right.
And I'm talking about Moses,
Right.
I wound up not explaining that one, but that's just one of the most recent ones. But it was... And I'll make a note, okay, joke didn't go well, don't reuse it, or something. I try to hone them. So, like, when I go visit places, you're getting the jokes that always land. Mm-hmm. I don't want to try out new material. I hate to say new material, but if I'm trying to break the ice and you don't know me and I don't know you, I'm not going to use a joke that I don't know if it's going to go over well.
Right.
I'm going to do one that, like, 98% of the time, it lands to some degree. Maybe not as good as it always does. But, I mean, it worked at Grundy Street because Bill, one of your...
Oh, yeah, I was going to say Bill...
Bill still brings up the first one I did,
Right.
So I'm like, well, I can't tell that one again because Bill still remembers it, But but it's memorable.
And he will never forget that. You'll never be able to use
right.
that one again.
But it's just,
right.
It's a great icebreaker. I do the same thing. I just want to make people feel comfortable. Easy to go, whatever it is. That's what I do on the Justin Reed Show. You may not know me from Adam. Well, let's enjoy some classic country together. I'm going to hold you by the hand. Maybe you don't know this art. I play a lot of stuff people know. And I'll have even some diehard people go, oh, you pulled one out I hadn't heard in a while. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm going to hold your hand while we do it. I may really like late 40s country, and you might not. Mm-hmm. Well, let me play one that was a bigger hit, and I'll walk you through it. Then it inspired Buck Owens to do this, and I make it fit what we're doing. There's no playlist of the show, so it's on the fly. But Bill Cody used to do this. I'm going to take you by the hand. To the degree that HR said, quit saying that. But I always just think about, like, he did a live read. Let me take you by the hand here on your computer. Type in da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You're walking them through it. Mm-hmm. It's what we do in sermons. It's what I try to do on the radio show. Whatever I'm doing. I'm trying to walk you through how long I'm here. I'm on stage at the Park Theater announcing a show. I'm here to get you excited so I can say, here's the Bellamy Brothers. Because you were at that show, right?
Oh, I was.
Yeah.
And we had a scheduling mix-up. We were supposed to have been at the last one.
Yeah, it was so good. Second one may be better than the first. I don't know. They're both sold out. But it was, I go on stage and I tell a terrible joke. And I tell you, it's going to be a terrible joke. Welcome to the Park Theater. They're great sponsors of the show. Welcome to the Park Theater. We got this, we've got this, we've got this. Oh, by the way, here's this. Now let me tell you a joke. Get you ready. If you don't like it, I'm going to tell 2 jokes. Spoiler alert, I'm always going to tell 2 jokes. Kind of people know that, because I always say how many jokes I tell is depending on how well you laugh. Mm-hmm. So I have some people that start laughing at me. I go, oh, I hadn't told a joke yet, But even if it's the Bellamy Brothers or whatever big act, they don't want to walk out to a stale audience.
Right.
So I'm their opener, or I'm the opener's opener.
You're the warm-up man.
I'm the warm-up man, and I even, I'll tell the joke to go, I know you're not here to see me. Born, and give their bio, would you please welcome the stage? And then I walk, and I'm done. And I know people don't come there to hear me. Mm-hmm. But for the time that I get to be in front of them, I try to make sure that they enjoy it, or at least chuckle. Mm-hmm. People shouldn't go to church to just hear me. They should go to church. But in the time that I'm allotted to speak to you, people don't have to listen to the show. So I want to reward them for the time you've allotted, mm-hmm. whether it's 1 minute or 180. I want to reward you for that, and I want to try to keep your attention as good as possible.
So, alluding to the different series at the Park Theater, one gentleman was there who is no longer performing, is my understanding. Mac and I got to be there for that. We were thrilled to be able to.
Oh, you're talking about a Millsap.
Ronnie Millsap.
Uh-huh. I reference that show probably once a week.
Okay.
I got to be the stage host for Ronnie Millsap.
Yes, you did.
His sound guy is Dottie West's son, Kerry West.
No kidding.
Uh-huh. Well, Kerry grew up at the Park Theater.
Sure.
And in fact, when you go to the park, you'll see a picture hanging up that looks like her on the Special Delivery album. It's from the same photo shoot, not the same cover. That was hanging in Kerry's studio, and he brought it that night, and originally was going to loan it to the Park Theater, but he's donated it.
Wow.
That was a good show. I got to meet Millsap at the end of it. Part of this, I just want to meet him, say hi. A lot of times I get to interview him on the show to plug it, but that one wasn't one.
This is one of our highlights. because I grew up on this guy. I can't remember not listening to
41
him.
number 1 hits.
Yeah, but Ronnie Millsap.
He was in rare form that night. What most people didn't realize was the piano was raised up a few inches. And Ronnie was on a piano bench that they just rolled him out on. It was just
right,
because our theater's so small.
Right.
It's not. It was built in '38. They didn't think about ADA compliance. Now Ronnie Millsap's not where he can't walk, but he's blind.
Uh-huh.
So that's a different kind of disability.
Right.
So they just wheeled him out, but he was super nice backstage. He had some help. People were telling him for the pictures because he's blind. And he jokes about it, so I don't feel bad about saying things about it. Because I listen to his Millsap and Music podcast, and it's great. He looks at people. His guy would go, okay, Ronnie, look to your left. This is Justin. He was your announcer, because he wouldn't know. And so I got to speak to him. He loved the introduction I gave him, and that was a fun show. It was a big show. We were a little over capacity at that show because there was a ticketing error. It was a rescheduled show, so that sometimes messes things up. So some of us were just kind of glad when the show was over. Because if you remember, it was hot in there.
Yes.
It was a May show, and there were more people than there should have been. And it was good, and all good things must come to an end. So some of us were kind of glad.
Right.
In a polite way, we were just kind of glad when it was over.
Right.
But it was, in fact, I just sent that picture to him, and he autographed it, because he could sign his name. And so he autographed the picture of me and him together backstage, so I need to hang that up.
When I was a kid, Mom and Dad had an 8-track
Okay.
of a live show he had done.
Yes. Well, that's a good live album, too.
Right. And he evidently missed his mark at one point and fell off the stage.
Yep.
And he comes on and they get him back up, and he's like, "I'm okay. Saw stars. First time I've seen anything in years."
Right. Well, what I just learned I was listening to this podcast yesterday. Before these big shows, Ronnie would go out and walk the stage, so he would know where everything was. Mm-hmm. So something probably got moved on him.
Right.
Was what that was. Because, I mean, he would get there early and...
Well, and that may be what...
Yeah, threw him off.
Well, what I was going to say is, after that show may have been what taught him the necessity of it, too. I mean, it may have been that he learned that as a result. But,
right.
But no, I mean, he fascinating history. Personal history.
Yeah.
Musical training.
Yeah.
Number one. But also the religious background.
Right.
That, he talked about his family having, and I mean, some of the things that, evidently there was some faith healing type of background there, that he was accused when he was not able to have his sight restored, that he didn't have enough faith. That was the reason.
Yeah. And because he wasn't always blind.
Right.
He'd had eye issues, and one of the stories I heard was a teacher had hit him in grade school and didn't immediately blind him, but it didn't help his already bad situation to be in. But I mean, there's a reason he's in the Country Music Hall of Fame.
If you've been enjoying the Tennessee History Nerd, there's a way to take a little piece of it with you. We've got merchandise available, shirts, hats, and more, so you can represent the show wherever you go. You can check that out at summersmediaenterprises.com/merch. And as always, thanks for listening. Now, let's return to the story. And, it's I can remember being a kid and hearing as current songs things like Pure Love.
Right.
And What a Difference You've Made in My Life.
Right.
These are on the radio, WSM of all things.
Right.
That we'd be listening to. I mean, that was current music. It was what was going on. And then I'm in college, and there's a video for There's a Stranger in My House.
And how would you know, Ronnie? That's the $1 million question. How would you know?
Well, he did say somebody here that I can't see.
I know. That's the funniest line in any song ever, especially when people clue in for the first time he's blind. That's the funniest. Frequently I'll play Daydreams About Night Things.
Uh-huh.
I did it this week, and I came back on and I go, Mr. Millsap, we don't think about these things, and we definitely don't talk about them.
Right.
I mean, if you think about, I know he's doing. Okay, so Pure Love, you know the songwriter? Eddie Rabbitt.
No kidding.
One of the first Eddie Rabbitt hits. Eddie Rabbitt also wrote Kentucky Rain.
I did know that.
Do you know Ronnie Millsap plays on Kentucky Rain on piano?
And that was the inspiration for Smoky Mountain Rain.
Smoky Mountain Rain.
Yes.
One of the 19, I think, state songs we have in the volunteer state.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But
big fan of Millsap. If I can give a plug, and I don't make any money off of this, in 2019 he did a duets project. Ronnie Millsap duets. I know because it's in the studio. So if you hear a little ruffle, that's me trying to reach across the console here on Studio 1A. Yeah, came out in 2019, and it's got Billy Gibbons doing Southern Boys and Detroit Wheels, Luke Bryan, Stranger in My House, Dolly Parton, Smoky Mountain Rain, Prisoner of the Highway, Jason Aldean, Willie Nelson, A Woman's Love, Lucy Angel, Happy, Happy Birthday Baby. I think the best cut on here is Casey Musgraves and No Getting Over Me, tied with Little Big Town doing Lost in the 50s tonight. Houston Solution, George Strait. I mean, Misery Loves Company with Leon Russell. It is a good album. I play it frequently on the show. I don't make any money off of the sale of that, so don't misunderstand that. But it is what it is. But that is a fantastic Millsap project, and it's all new recordings from him. So it's.
So you're gonna laugh when you hear this. Even my wife knew this. I didn't know this. I just found out like 2 weeks ago that John Michael Montgomery is
And Andy
the brother.
Montgomery.
Yes.
You know that England Dan is Dan Seals,
I
right?
did know that.
Okay.
Yes.
You know his brothers in Seals.
Jimmy.
Okay. I just thought I'd check and make sure at this point.
Oh, and by the way, Harold and Don are actually brothers.
Yeah, they are actually brothers. And did you know that Rhonda Vincent and Darren Vincent, Dalen Vincent, are the only Opry members, brother and sister, who are not in a family group? They're both Opry members on their own, not in a family group. Only time in Opry history.
Did not know that. I'm not surprised to find that out because most of the time they would be in the
It was
same.
the Whites. It was the
Right.
the whomevers and the
Yeah,
whatnots and the who.
The Coopers or the
Right. So there you go.
No. So all right. So trivia question.
Okay.
But only you can answer this. Literally only you can
okay.
answer this. What is your favorite classic country song used in a movie?
Used in a movie. Oh. Not really a big fan of the movie, but just while I think and to make you laugh, I'll say Right Turn, Clyde. It's not that one, but that probably made you think of Clint Eastwood, Every Which Way But Loose.
Oh, okay.
Right Turn, Clyde. Boom. Favorite classic country song?
I follow you now. So that,
Yeah.
Every Which Way But Loose.
So that's one of those 28 references?
Yeah.
And you weren't one of the 28, but it's fine. I still love you just the same.
Yeah.
I don't know about classic country song in a movie. Because I'm trying to think of the mainstream stuff.
Well, what went through my mind that made me think of the question is from Full Metal Jacket at the beginning. Goodbye, my sweetheart. Hello, Vietnam.
Yep.
So.
Although I've never seen Pulp Fiction, I know that Flowers on the Wall's in there.
Right.
See, I'm not a big movie guy, so I'm trying to think of just what I know is on soundtracks.
Okay.
Because I'm not a big popular movie guy.
Well, and so let me to rephrase the question.
Yeah.
Favorite classic country in a movie soundtrack. So if I put it that way, then it's the same question, just phrased a different way.
Arguably one of the greatest soundtracks of all time is Urban Cowboy.
Okay.
Followed up by the Urban Chipmunk version.
Sure. With Brenda Lee.
From Alvin Simon and Theodore the Chipmunks.
But Brenda Lee is on.
Yeah, I know. It's like, okay, and she's chipmunk sized, so that's fitting.
Yes.
That's
by the way, she was another one that Joe had.
Okay, yeah. I met her once. She's a sweet lady. Saw her hair before I saw her, but that's
that's because
she's Brenda Lee and she can. Ooh,
so
in a movie or a soundtrack.
And see, the thing about Urban Cowboy is those songs are only classic now.
I know. That's the thing. I was watching, and it may have been a TV show. I was watching something the other day, and Eddie Arnold, What's He Doing in My World, came on, and I got a big smile on my, but I can't remember what it was. That's what I see a lot of snippets and stuff. My Name is Earl had a good soundtrack. I don't know if you remember watching My Name is Earl.
I've watched it a little bit, but not much. I'm not a big TV watcher.
It's not the best show. It's funny. Some of it's out there. But it did make me want El Camino growing up. But it is like a quintessential, because it's got Roger Miller cuts on there. Mm-hmm. That's a TV show, though, but it's got Roger Miller cuts, and it's got deep Johnny Cash cuts, and it may just be like a chorus of a song, but it's great on the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of King of the Hill, but now I'm thinking of TV shows because I'm changing your question, because I'm more relevant with that.
Okay.
On the King of the Hill soundtrack, the guy that voices Hank does a recitation of Teddy Bear. John's laughing because I had a request to play Teddy Bear during the show today, and it's Hank Hill.
Oh, no, I'm just picturing in my mind Hank Hill doing Teddy Bear.
And there's a little intro where he's like, the producers told me not to do it, but it's my album, so I'm going to do it, It's random things like that I would have to say.
And then at the end, and I sell propane
You're
and
right,
propane
right.
accessories.
And then if I have to do a movie, the only one I can think of off the top of my head, and it's classic now, but it's a movie now. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 has Southern Nights from Glenn Campbell.
No kidding.
Yep.
And that qualifies because
That's the only one I can think
Southern
of.
Nights, you're going back a ways for
Right.
that. All right, so we're going to play a little word association game
Oh,
here.
boy.
I'm going to throw a name out and you tell me favorite song.
Okay. Glad I grabbed a glass of water.
All right, Glenn Campbell. We'll just go right there.
Try a Little Kindness.
Try a little kindness.
That's one of the unofficial theme songs of the Justin Reed Show.
Okay. All right, Loretta Lynn.
Ooh. It's probably tied. Probably a three-way tie. Favorite duet with Ernest Tubb, Who's Gonna Take the Garbage Out? Only because now I know the guitar player in it. One's on the Way intro is by Dave Thornhill. Her guitar player is a friend of the show. I've always loved Happy Birthday. Happy Birthday, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. I just love the snarkiness in that. So that's probably my favorite Loretta song, but then favorite E.T. duet, and then also now that I know the guitar player on that famous intro.
Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go Family Connection, Crystal Gale.
Okay. Why have you left the one you left me for?
Okay.
Because you can clap along.
Okay. Johnny Paycheck.
Johnny Paycheck. Probably A11.
Okay.
It's not the one you were thinking it was going to be.
I had no idea what it was going to be.
Yeah.
I knew you would not do Take This Job and Shove It.
No, but those are the 6 words you've always wanted to say to your boss. That's how I cue it up on the radio.
Yeah. So, and my favorite of his is the one that Tracy Berg covered then.
Oh, don't take your shit off, God.
Yeah, that's
So you
my
were going to say Colorado Kool-Aid about cutting a guy's ear off. I'm glad you didn't go that route.
No. Jim Reeves.
Ooh. Probably Distant Drums. We talked about that one earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And but since you knew I liked that one, what's he doing? No. I like Bimbo. I like Yonder Comes a Sucker. But it's something about Four Walls.
Four Walls.
But Four Walls heard on the radio, or Four Walls heard off of an LP. You can feel the warmth in his voice.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew he meant it.
Mm-hmm. Johnny Horton.
Johnny Horton. I like Sink the Bismarck. That may be my favorite of his. He's our history lesson on the Justin Reed Show.
So did you know, speaking of that song was banned in England?
Not surprised. I didn't know that.
It was banned in England because it's not historically correct.
It's not historically correct.
No.
Well, my whole world's been ruined, John. Thinking of banned English songs, you keep asking me. The Man Over My Shoulder, Gene Autry. Deep in the Heart of Texas was banned during the Second World War from radio airplay on BBC stations because companies were losing productivity because he would sing, "The stars are bright when they shine at night," and everybody would go, every time. And so they had to ban airplay because it was messing up when they were making stuff for the war. So random. But yeah,
right.
So probably Sink the Bismarck, Honky Tonk Man's a good one, or Electrified Donkey. That's a good one.
Okay.
Which you don't know.
No.
I can tell by the look on your face.
No.
But
But-
donkey who backs to electric fence gets shot through the space because he's
Oh,
electrified.
okay. All right. Bob Wills.
Bob Wills, Time Changes Everything.
Okay. Mr. Tubb.
Ernest Tubb, that probably would be Walking the Floor Over You, the original version. I like Waltz Across Texas. I like a lot of his covers. He did a good version of Lonesome 77203. Did a good version.
I can see him doing that.
Did a good version of Walk the Line. I like a lot of the album cuts, but
Okay.
probably the Walking the Floor Over You.
All right. Man in Black.
Man in Black's Boa Constrictor.
Okay.
Shel Silverstein song. If not, Chicken in Black.
Okay. Eddie Rabbit.
Eddie Rabbit started off the show today with The Wanderer. Because he's the Wanderer.
Okay.
He goes around.
And that's a cover.
It's a cover.
That's a cover. I was like, is he talking about the same one? He is
I
talking
am. But I like covers.
about- Okay. All right. So, your favorite cover.
Ooh, favorite cover.
We just covered 2 or 3 of
I
them.
know, but I don't know if that's my favorite cover of a cover. I don't know, because I don't always think about covers as their own genre. I I think about it as a hit from somebody.
Right. Well, I mean, so you mentioned Honky Tonk Man. Of course, that was a cover for Dwight Yoakam.
It's also a Bob Luman cover in the 70s.
Okay.
I like Bob Luman. Lonely Women Make Good Lovers was another Bob Luman cover.
I did not know that was a cover.
So Steve Wariner, after he quit playing bass for Dottie West, played for Bob Luman, and so he cut a lot of Bob Luman stuff earlier.
Well, I mean, I knew that Steve Wariner covered it. I thought you meant Bob Luman's cover was.
No. Bob's is the original.
Okay, that's what confused me when you said cover. I was like, I didn't know he covered that.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else would be a cover.
Well, we talked about a whole album of them earlier.
I know. Everything on there is good. That's a good album from Sleep Until Western Standard Time.
That's one of my favorite albums of all time.
When I did the show in Murfreesboro, I started off every show with the national anthem, and then I would immediately play Sleep at the Wheel. Because at 7 o'clock, the joke was, because I don't want you to be asleep at the wheel.
Right.
And then I'd get it. Plus, I wanted a fast-paced song. I never start an hour on a slow song. I always start an hour on a fast song, because I found the hours better.
Okay. So. And then they, of course, did another album of covers of just Bob Wills song, Riding with Bob.
They've done 3.
See, I will confess, I have been away from following current releases for probably the last 25, 30 years.
Well, the last one came out in 2015, I would say.
Yep, that was after my time of following stuff.
So, I'm listening to you. My phone's going off, and I'm trying to stop it. So keep asking me questions.
Okay.
I'm not being rude.
Okay, so Leonard Sly.
Ooh, Blue Shadows on the Trail, because you thought you'd trick me.
No, I just wanted to see if you'd reference. No, I knew you'd know. All right, so what about when he was with the Sons of the Pioneers?
When it was a Sons of the Pioneers.
Okay, I'm talking about when he's...
Probably without the Sons of the Pioneers is with Dale and it's Happy Trails.
Okay.
But almost, there was such an overlap where he was in and out of the group those early years that it's almost hard for me to differentiate the two.
Right.
Now, there's a distinct marcation from when he left the Sons of the Pioneers. Which, by the way, did you know your Roy Rogers fun fact? He is the only member inducted twice into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Did not know that.
Once as a Son of the Pioneer, as the original 6, and once as a solo. It's the same picture on both plaques.
Interesting.
You're
that
welcome.
I did not know. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about favorite from specific genres within country music, subgenres.
Okay.
Outlaw.
So every Wednesday is a Willie and Waylon Wednesday. Waylon and Willie Wednesday.
Okay.
I enjoy probably Waylon. It's probably my favorite outlaw, but I do like the Glazer Brothers.
Right, but I like song.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant artist.
No, song from that.
Oh, well, I'll have to go with Waylon Jennings. We have unofficial theme songs.
Okay.
And his is I've Always Been Crazy.
Always Been Crazy.
But it's kept me from going insane. And that's a good 4-minute, 17-second song that could have been 3 minutes. But it's got a minute 17 outro. And if you need to go to the bathroom, you like these 4-minute songs.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Let's see here. Bluegrass.
Okay. Osborne Brothers, Lonesome Feeling.
Okay. Nashville Sound.
It might be something from Jim Reeves in the early 60s. So it might be He'll Have to Go.
He'll Have to Go.
Or I'll either do early Nashville Sound or what I think of the end of the Nashville Sound and For the Good Times from Ray Price. Because that's like the end.
Yes, it is.
With the 412-piece orchestra.
Right. and
because Ray could do it.
Right. And what's really funny is if you listen to early Ray Price versus late Ray Price, it's not even the same guy.
Early Ray Price, he was Hank Williams.
Yeah.
Because he was touring with Hank Williams, and he took over the Cherokee Cowboys right away. Or the Drifting Cowboys, and then he changed it to the Cherokee Cowboys.
Okay. All right. Western Swing.
It might still be Time Changes Everything. I love that Bob Wills tune, and it's got a good message behind it.
Okay. Bakersfield is either, they're both from Buck Owens, and it's either going to be Buckaroo, because when do you get a instrumental that charts and charts high? You don't.
It was originally called like Made in Paris, or something about Paris was in the title, then they changed it to Buckaroo. Or Made in Japan, which was Buck Owens' last #1 hit.
Okay. Crossover.
Crossover. It might be an Eddie Rabbitt or a Crystal Gale. Not their duet together, but probably from one of them. So it would either be Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue, which was a big crossover, or Eddie Rabbitt's probably I Love a Rainy Night. Only because I've interviewed Even Stevens.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to put you on the spot by
Are you
saying...
done asking about genres? You didn't even ask about country disco.
Okay.
Whispering Bill Anderson's version of I Want to Kiss You All Over. Off the Ladies' Choice album, because he hates it when I bring this up in interviews.
Okay. Country disco. Okay. What about alternative country?
Oh, we can stop here.
Since we're going to go down that road.
Right, probably something from the Giesenslaws.
Okay.
But,
I thought it might be the Cactus Brothers or something.
could be.
All right. So I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask who your favorite interview was, because if somebody ends up listening to this and they go, I wasn't his favorite interview.
I have favorite moments from a lot of interviews.
That's the thing I was going to say.
But I've been
Give me
asked
some of your
that a lot. I interviewed Ralph Emery on
Okay.
Halloween on the phone. And I said, what does Ralph Emery do on Halloween? And he goes, well, you know, because he's just the voice. He said, I think the grandkids are coming over and I'm going to take them trick-or-treating. This is Walter Ralph Emery, the dean of all country broadcasters. You know, so that was fun. A favorite, and this was after an interview. I've interviewed Sylvia a couple of times.
Okay.
Radio and a TV project we've done, and become friends with Sylvia. Your Nobody Call today.
I was going to say, well, did your nobody call while you were doing that?
Yeah, and we took a snapshot of the tumbleweed. You know, there's just some Sylvia hits. We were at an event after an interview, probably a month or two after an interview, and we're just talking, catching up, hadn't seen each other, and somebody comes up and asks her a question. And she said, I don't know it, but Justin will know the answer.
Wow.
Something about her life. But I had studied it so I could do the interview.
Right.
So that was a big compliment. I enjoyed the Sonny Leuven. I told you that story earlier. I really enjoyed him. I find something I like in just about every interview.
Okay.
When you see the human side of these performers come out. You know, one of my favorites was Jim Ed Brown, and he came to the studio on average an hour and a half before he was supposed to be on the air.
Wow.
So I got some private time.
Sure.
Dad came the first ones, and Friends from Church came the second one. We didn't know Jim Ed was going to come early. Dad just wanted to meet him. And so we just talk, and you know, because he was there for all of it. So it's fun stuff like that, you know.
And you know, it's kind of funny. Some of my favorite Jim Ed stuff, I mean, of course, Papa Top is huge, but
Right.
but some of my favorite stuff from him wasn't even Jim Ed stuff. It was the Browns.
Right. Jim Ed, Maxine, and Bonnie. He had a career as a duet with his sister Maxine, or with Bonnie, and then Maxine got old enough to tour. Then he had a career as a trio, and then a solo, and then as a duet with Helen Cornelius.
I remember the Helen Cornelius years.
Which was rare to have 3 real legs of your career.
Right.
Do you know the Papa Top intro? Do you know what that can is? That's what he would do on stage, but in the studio, it was a can. It was a Dr. Pepper can. Because he told me in an interview they had opened every beer can in Nashville. None of them sounded good on a recording.
So he actually did
It was a Dr. Pepper can.
Pepper can. That's great.
Yep. So, funny how that works, you know?
Yep. But, let's see here. What can I... Oh, I know what I was starting to ask you. You do a lot of stuff at the park.
Yep.
What's your favorite moment? What's your most unexpected moment at the park?
First show back from COVID was the Queen of Bluegrass, Rhonda Vincent. So it was about a 3/4 sold out. Should have been a sold out show, but this was May or April of 21. So people are still
hinky about it.
Don't really know what we're doing. You know, there were no restrictions, but people were just holding back. And ticket sales showed that, so we knew what was going to be the big of a crowd. I'm on stage. They actually have me stage right, in front of the curtain, almost off the stage, because they were doing stuff on the stage. So I'm doing stuff, and I hear the dreaded sound nobody wants to hear, and it was of the system popping as it reset. So the PA for the entire park went down. So I start yelling at the audience. I was in the middle of a joke when it went out of my 2. Well, now I paused the second one because the second one's usually better than the first on purpose. And I just start telling jokes for probably 6, 7, 8 minutes. Just so people don't start doing whatever. And then I hear the funniest. I heard it come back on. We get my mic back on. And I said, all right, well, there's one more joke in this set before I tell the last one. So you just got to grin and bear it. You know, because I was telling one that could be a string of jokes. So I wanted to make sure that we got through the whole thing and not just... I wanted you to get the final payoff, and then I told the final joke. But see, I've done live radio, so I was ready to just roll with it. Mm-hmm. You know, I've seen other people where stuff goes wrong and they don't know what to do. Right. We were there one night this year for Becky Bowler, and there was interference. And I jokingly said, oh, it's not me. They told me, said, actually, it was your mic, but we don't know why it was. So he said, but it made it funnier because every time you talk and then it would go away, that you kept saying it wasn't you. Yeah. I said, well, I really thought it wasn't me, or I would have gotten a different mic, you know. So but live radio, so you can roll with things.
What went through my mind when you said that was Spinal Tap.
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe not. Well, that water's good, especially when I've been talking. What else we got?
So,
lower my chair down because it keeps falling on me.
So I'm going to say as I look at this now, we've been at this. My goodness, we've been at this almost 2 hours. It's kind of like your show.
I've still got to have lunch.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and hit you with I told you I was going to come back to Dan Rather. What have I not asked you that I should have asked you?
Normally I get the, why did you want to be in radio? But I feel like I've answered that a lot, but I've always just wanted to do it. I rarely get asked about my favorite part of the show. I get asked, what do I like about the show? My favorite part about doing what I'm doing is the listeners. They make the show. You call people and they call you on their worst days, but I'm a constant voice in their life. I don't know them. They don't know me, but they know me. It's different. Once again, it's different from what we're on now because, I mean, people find you, but then they start doing a dive and they go, oh, I really like him. I want to know more what he's doing. But I tell a lot of people, they just have the radio on and here I am. But then I become part of their life. So they call you. I mean, I had a guy call me and said, Justin, Mama just got called home this morning. Can you play Go Rest High or whatever her favorite song was? You're like, of course, you know, that's what I'm here for. And they have good moments and they have bad moments. And I love being that connectivity. Mm-hmm. I have people that call and say that I'm what makes their morning. And for me, it's a job. I mean, I get paid for it. Don't misunderstand. But it's really more than that. The show is not just the Justin Reed Show. That's the name of it, and I'm here. But it's me and all the listeners. I mean, today I took 12 or 14 requests. I've taken 34 in 2.5 hours, and there's 15 songs in an hour, so you do the math. You know, like that's what the fun part of this is. I try to do a show the way that radio is meant to be. I'm in the studio. You call the studio line. I answer it. You talk to me. I put your song on next. You chat. I mean, I've got some people, they'll talk for a couple of minutes if I let them. And I'll go, hold on a minute, and I'll just set the phone down, do a break. Come, are you still there? Do it for the listeners. Mm-hmm. I was always told, love the listeners, they'll love you back. Mm-hmm. So I try to love on these listeners every day. Because without them, I'm just talking to myself in a room with padded walls for 3 hours a day. And that doesn't sound too good. Now, John will worry when the coat ties in the back. But so far it doesn't, you know. Is it bad when your family's coat of arms is a straight coat? Is that a problem? Yeah. But, you know, these jokes, they just go forever. But it's just one of those things where that's why you do it. You know, you do the early mornings, the late nights, whatever. You do it, obviously, because you love the job. That's with any job. You love doing this. You wouldn't do it. But I love it for the listeners because even if I'm having a bad day, I have a good day on the radio because my mood directly affects their mood. So I always make sure I'm having a good day on the radio. I may be feeling terrible off air. I may be worried about something work-wise, church-wise, family-wise, health-wise, whatever. But I'm going to do my best from 900 to high noon. I'm having a good day. And one of the mantras of the show is, it's a good day to have a good day. And every day with Jesus is a good day. And I'm a firm believer that it is a good day. I may have to find what's good in the day. But every day's a good day. You may have the worst day of your life, but you know what? You still survived it. You laid down to wake up another day. That may be the only good thing in your life. You may have had everything go wrong with you today, but you're going to live to fight another day. I think it's a perspective thing.
Mm-hmm.
I play some songs, not that I don't like them, but they're not my favorite. Be quite honest, if I never heard Vince Gill sing Go Rest High on That Mountain again, I could die a happy man. It's never been one of my favorite songs. But it means a lot to a lot of people. And so when somebody calls in because they're thinking about their mother, because they're thinking about whomever, I'm going to play that and I'm going to dedicate it to them. Because they want me to. Now, if it was just a show where it's just what I want to hear, you'd never hear that song. And no offense, Vince. I've met Vince. He's a nice guy. And that song has done wonders for millions of people. But it's not my favorite.
Right.
But I'll play it. That's just what comes to mind. A lot of people, I think people know that's not my, others that I don't care for. I can turn down the volume in here and it not affect what you hear on the radio. You know, it's just one of those things. But if I didn't care about the listeners, then I wouldn't do that. You know what I mean, Vern?
I do.
That's one of those 28 references.
Yep, Big Jim.
Yeah. It's his birthday the other day. I played his version of Hot Rod Lincoln from the Beverly Hillbillies soundtrack. But that's why I enjoy what I do. And I love meeting people that listen to the show and that are fans. And, you know, it's different. You mentioned on my show how you met somebody, or maybe it was this show, I don't remember at this point. I've been talking for 5 hours straight, so I don't remember. How you met somebody that was a fan of your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different in radio. Unless they film it, unless I speak, nobody knows who it is.
Right.
I asked Richard Sturb in an interview one time with the Oak Ridge Boys. And I said, how often do you get recognized? He said, by myself, rarely. With the other three, William Lee Golden gives us away.
Uh-huh.
You know, the man with the 40-year-old beard.
Uh-huh.
And so he gets to be a celebrity and still kind of be anonymous. I'm not a celebrity, but it is kind of nice that a whole lot of people know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have people stop at Walmart or stop wherever. I love to chat for a minute. You know, I'm not there all day, but hey, we'll chat for a second, and it makes my day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also kind of nice that I can also just run in and out of the Dollar General and not be stopped. You know what I'm saying, though. It is kind of nice. I mean, I've got a voice that thousands of people know what I sound like, even if they don't know what I look like.
Right.
And some of them know it, and they don't even listen to the show, but they just hear me between our 10 other stations.
Well, we talked earlier about, you know, that I was at the drugstore in Manchester. Walked in, they're playing that your station.
Right.
Hey, I know him. Oh yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'll prove it to you. And I texted you.
Yeah, I get a text from Big John, so I give a shout out. You know, that's what's fun about radio is you can do that.
Right. And it occurred to me, I didn't think last time I was in there to tell them, hey, you need to be listening on Thursday. I wonder if they happen to hear it today.
Right.
Because that's going to be pretty neat if I walk in the next time. Hey,
right.
We heard you on Justin.
Hey, we heard you on the radio. You know, and I just love it. People go, well, I love listening to your radio, so thanks, I don't listen. You know, it throws them for a loop. I'm doing the show, or whatever. But it's just something a little fun, you know. But I do it because I love it. Maybe I do it 15 years now, but I wouldn't want to do anything else.
So what do you listen to?
Well, I always do the joke. I physically can't hear myself.
Right. No,
because I'm on the air.
Right. And I get the joke.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. Sometimes I got to explain these things.
Yeah.
Right?
No. So I got the joke. But so
what do I listen to? It's an interesting question. I mean, I'd listen to Bill Cody a lot on the mornings in.
Mm-hmm.
I try to listen, especially when I was doing the talk station. I try to listen to the talk news out of Nashville on my way in to see if I missed any points that weren't political.
Mm-hmm.
And be honest, I listen to a lot of talk radio on the way home. I've got an 8-minute drive thereabouts, 8 to 10 minutes to the house.
Yeah, long commute.
A long commute, assuming that Hardee's isn't backed up. It's usually an easy get go. But sometimes I'm around music so much I don't want to hear music.
Right.
I'll listen to music when I'm studying in the afternoon, but in that immediate pause, I want something. I have driven home in silence.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to a sermon. I don't really listen to podcasts while I'm driving much. Once again, that 10 minutes is not much to get into something.
By the way, I'm not receiving anything from this. This is not me plugging somebody that's helping me in any way other than this guy's voice is great, and I enjoy listening to his podcast. And his shows are all about 7 or 8 minutes, micro, the way I heard it.
Okay, I watched some of his stuff on the YouTube.
Yeah, the way I heard it,
Yep.
it's you could actually listen to an episode on the way home.
He's too dirty for me. No, I'm just kidding. Some of those jobs he's had, I don't know. See, that's one of those 28 things again, you see. But sometimes I like silence.
Well, the interesting thing, and this ties right back to, I told you I don't even drink whiskey, so it's not something nearest green.
Yeah.
The first time I heard that story was actually on the way I heard it.
There you go.
I learned something about my own history.
Right. It's just funny how that works, because we're all connected if you just look.
Right. Well, and the thing is there are, you've got to have enough humility to recognize, number one, I don't know everything, and not everything that I can learn is going to come from the expected places.
Right.
So
that's how I get to the Justin Reed Show, because that's where a lot of this knowledge comes from. It's not where you think, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had a thought.
No, it's actually...
It was a statement when new management came in, and then they talked about launching the show and wanting to do some stuff. And this is, I'd say, probably a 95% copy of the show that you listen to in Murfreesboro. Mm-hmm. There's a few things that we don't do, just format-wise or time of day-wise. It changes a little bit. 95%, still the same. Still same me, same music. I understand that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not trying to reach everybody. I'm reaching more than the 28, but there's a large number of people that like what we're doing. And that's who I'm doing this for. Mm-hmm. You can't, I believe Ricky Nelson sang it best. You can't please everyone.
So you got to please yourself.
Got to please yourself. I know who I'm playing.
Rick Nelson by then.
Well, I know, but he's still a little Ricky to me. But he was Rick Nelson by then. But I go, okay, the classic country's not for everybody. I get that. That's fine. You don't have to listen.
Well, the interesting thing is, we've been talking all this time about that 50,000 watt blowtorch from Nashville.
Yep.
They went to that format.
Yeah.
I mean, they got away from the contemporary stuff. When I was a kid growing up listening to WSM, it was whatever's current right now.
Right.
They got away from that because you dropped several names a while ago that I was like, I have no idea who that is, because they're all current.
Oh yeah.
And I don't listen to current country.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few people that Jason Aldean. I've been to a couple of his concerts, but generally speaking, I got off the current music train a long time ago. When I'm listening to fairly current music, the thing that'll blow people's minds when I tell them I listen to European symphonic metal.
Well, you are always a different bird, so.
In the words of Popeye, I am what I am.
Toot toot. Yeah, it's there's a whole lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of the newer stuff, but almost as soon as we started again here, it just took off because there was a large percentage. It's not the lion's share, but it's a large percent that felt like they didn't have a home on the radio.
Right.
So for 3 hours a day, we're that home. Mm-hmm. And some of them listen after or before. Some don't. So we're going to hit them while we have them.
Right.
And we have advertisers that have come on specifically to our show that want to hit those kind of people.
Right.
So it works out well for them because we're taking their audience or their demographic and funneling it to a 3-hour segment.
Right.
If you want to reach them, here they are. I'm not in sales. We can contact the sales department if you'd like to advertise. But that's how it works, And we get some general advertisers too, but it's very specific. They're on the Justin Reed Show because they want to, because they like it, because they're trying to reach you, because...
Well,
whatever the case may be.
And I mentioned earlier that I couldn't bring this up on your show, but I can bring it up on my own. And now I have my first sponsor.
Yeah, congratulations.
And my first sponsor is in the travel industry.
See, there you go.
Because, when you're talking about driving across Tennessee, that's what you're getting into. And honestly, by the way, if anyone is listening in from the Tennessee tourism, anything to do with Tennessee tourism, reach out to me, john.summers at summersmediaenterprises.com. Would love to talk to you.
Once again, that email is
john.summers at summersmediaenterprises.com.
See, they could just back it up and hear it from you again, but I'm used to always get the phone number twice.
Right.
Because you never know.
Right, exactly. Well, I'm doing that even and one of the things that I'm going to be challenged by with this ad is, as I talked to Bob, he listened to the sample ads I created for me. He said, well, add this and add this and add this and add this. And I'm like, it's already over a minute.
Yeah.
It's so it's going to be a challenge, but that's now I get to go back and sit down and
there's
work
you a
that
fun
up.
project to do.
Yeah, that's what I'll be doing when I get home this afternoon.
And congrats on the first sponsor. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
The first of many.
Yeah, I hope so. But the thing is to your point, these sponsors that your show has.
Yep.
The group of people that are listening to your show, that demographic works for those sponsors. Mm-hmm. Same thing like what I was talking about with Bob and Birdsong. So that is Birdsong Resort, Marina, and Campground on the Tennessee River in Camden, Tennessee, the beautiful Kentucky Lake. So there you go, Bob. There's a free plug for you.
I'll take the bill on that one for you.
So thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Glad to do it.
Really enjoyed having you on here.
I've enjoyed this.
By the way, one of the things that you said for me is that it's probably not the last time I will be on your show. Ditto.
Okay.
Ditto.
Let me eat lunch first.
Right. No, I don't mean we're going to do it right now.
Okay, good.
But
you never know with you. I have to catch you when I see you.
Right. But, what I would say is I could see this being a quarterly kind of thing.
Okay.
I think that would be a lot of fun. And one of the things I've started doing is, previously the plan had been when I first broached this idea with you, hey, this is going to live behind a paywall.
Yeah.
I'm doing away with that because nobody was going out and listening. And
Mr. Summers, tear down this wall.
And we've done it. We have done it, and
I should have done my Reagan impression. You want to hear my Reagan impression?
Sure.
Well,
that's
it. Because any more words I do, and I lose the impression. But
that's a mighty deep topic.
And if you'll notice, for the listeners, I tilted my head kind of. That's what I can't do. I'm good on micro impressions. I do that, and I've got a micro impression. Jimmy Carter. You ready? Jimmy Carter.
Sugar.
Yeah, that's it. Now, anymore, and I derail this trade, but I get the two. But any time we can make this work, as long as something doesn't slip, slide, or come untied, I'm yours.
So now for my Reagan impression. There you go again.
Are you doing Reagan or are you doing Rich Little doing Reagan? I'm not sure which one. I think you're doing Rich Little doing Ronald Reagan there.
Well, I actually remember the line from the debate that he was in.
Right.
So yeah, I'm old enough for that. I'm a little older than you are. So, given that your mom and I were in high school together,
age is just a number.
So, again, thank you so much.
Can I leave you the way I always close the show?
Absolutely.
I want to leave you with some words of wisdom. A good friend once told me one time that knowledge is power and power corrupts. So study hard, be evil, and take over the world. Y'all come to see us when you can here on the Tennessee History Nerd.
Very good. And of course, what I have to add to that is what went through my mind when you did that earlier. What are we doing tonight, Brain?
Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
There we go. All right. Thank everybody. Thank you all so much for listening. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the folks that are helping to make this a success and continue to drive what we're doing. Thanks so much for being here. Hope that you managed to make it all the way to this point because we
hope so.
And take care. God bless. The Tennessee History Nerd is part of Summers Media Enterprises. In addition to the podcast, we produce short-form historical video content that you can find on our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And I'm also available on a limited basis for speaking engagements, presentations, and educational events. So if you're interested in having us to speak or collaborate with you, you can find more information through the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening.